Let's call to order the Sparks City Council meeting of September 25th, 2017, with a roll call, please.
Mayor Martini, Council Members Abbott, Lawson, Smith, Bybee, Deere, City Attorney Adams, City Manager Driscoll.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Okay, opening ceremonies, we have our favorite pastor, Pastor Barbara West, Sparks Church of the Nazarene. If you'd all stand, please, for the opening. I apologize, Pastor. I have trouble standing up, so I'll just...
That's quite all right. God bless you, Pastor. Appreciate you. Would you all bow with me with prayer? Our Heavenly Father, what a privilege it is to come this day, and thank you for another beautiful. And Lord, we thank you for the privilege of living in the United States and also for the privilege of living in this great place that we call home, Sparks, Nevada. And we thank you too, Lord, that we have the privilege to pray for this wonderful council, for Mayor Martini and all of the people that you've elected to lead us. And we pray for help and a blessing upon each one of them. And give them the wisdom to know how to lead us into the future, because our trust is in them and what they're going to do to help us. Thank you for all of the construction and the building that's going on and for the jobs that opens up for so many. And we want to remember to thank you too, Lord, for all of our first responders, for our firefighters, and for our police officers and our law enforcement, the EMT, all of those that help us in our city so much. And so now we call upon you to give wisdom to our council members, and we pray that you will lead us into the future, because we've asked you to do so. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Barbara. That was great. If you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please, Mr. Landslide. Yeah, it's a good one. Mr.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, next is public comment. If you want to do public comment on number 4, allow one of these cards, bring it up to our clerk, and she will take care of it for you. First, we have Darlene Hesse. Thank you. Come on up. Is it Hesse?
Yes. I don't know how to put these on, but I sure like some help here to put my pictures on. Have all of these pictures of the flooding in January, and I want to tell you all, we're not against schools, we're not against education, we're not against high schools. We are for everything, and education is the very most important as far as I'm concerned, but we're not interested in seeing a beautiful property being torn down, a $30 million property, and building a school that no one seems to have an idea of how much the school will cost. And I just want you to see the flooding. It's just unbelievable at times that what we go through, the neighborhood. Now, the one that I really wanted you to see was where the ditch is just almost, or the water is almost flowing right here, flowing over Whittican. And then I went up beyond the clubhouse on the west side, high up where the fellows they have their maintenance building, and that was all filled with water also. I talked to one of the fellows that worked there. Later, he said it took 2 months for that water to go down. Now, for schools, I think it's very important that they be built on another area. And I don't know if anyone watched Sunday's 60 Minutes, but they had all on about floodplains. And I kind of think maybe it's not, I don't know if it's really considered a floodplain or not. We consider it a floodplain. But they say that they put golf courses on floodplains and that people are not listening to the other people of the community when they talk about floodplains. And they're making a big mistake, like in Houston. That was a floodplain. And did anyone see that? It was very important. It was just a real interesting show on 60 Minutes last night. Anyway, I beg of you people, this is an open space, a beautiful space, and I thought that was what we were all about, to protect areas for animals, for people. The golfers are having a wonderful time out there. I see tournament after tournament over there, and I've been over there a few times, having them sign petitions, and there's only been one person that denied me. But we have lots and lots of names. A lot of people don't even realize about this. So anyway, I hope you reconsider. It's just a real heartfelt thing to save this land, not just for the golfers, but for the animals also. So it's really a very special treasure to all of us, and to Sparks and Reno. And why are they calling Wild Creek Reno Wild Creek? I'd like to know that answer. When I looked it up to see about Wild Creek, they put Reno Wild Creek on there. I hope it's not going to be Reno, and I hope it's not going to be a Hug High School, a Reno school right there in that property. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next we have Waskey, is it Waskey Griffin?
Letting me come and talk about saving Wild Creek. You know, one of the things I think we miss sometimes today is some of the interesting words that we used that really come from the past. Words like hornswoggle. Anybody remember the name hornswoggle? How about boondoggle? Boondoggle. Never heard of boondoggle? That's kind of like hornswoggle. How about hoodwinked? Yeah, hoodwinked, you know. Those are all very interesting words. And I would suggest to you that that's what's going on with the Washoe County School District, trying to put a high school on Wild Creek Golf Course.
Hogan's Goat.
This isn't just a sports issue. This is an issue for our whole community. Interestingly enough, I have some clips from some of our media here recently about what the Washoe County School District COO said, you know, initially. He said, this was just the perfect location for the Washoe County School District. I can't say we really had a plan B. This is a beautiful site, and trying to find acreage in the urban environment there is very difficult. And this was reported by a couple of different people. There were a lot of people that were outraged and were incredulous with this statement. And after that, after they spoke up, then they come back and said, well, we do have a plan B, and we do have a plan C. There was also, we were told initially that this property needed to be transferred by August. Well, then that's backed off on. Then we come out with this report this weekend about, actually it was last week, but it's in the paper this weekend, where supposedly a bunch of contractors around town think that Wild Creek is the best area. This was done after the fact. That Plan B and Plan C and all these different plans supposedly they had were not in existence before some of these other concerns were brought forward. I would implore you, Sparks City Councilmen and women, to stand up and publicly take a position on this and save this treasure for our community. I realize that you don't have a direct vote on some of it, but you can take a public position. And I think you'll be glad you did.
Thank you, sir. Bill Wagner?
Common goal here. That's safety for all citizens of the city of Sparks. Thank you very much. And I hope you folks will someday take a ride up there.
Thank you, sir. Kathleen Shoup?
Good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Shupp, and I am here as a representative of the Save Wild Creek organization as well. I found this study. Oh, I can't get that up. Oh, there it is. I found a study online about crime in schools, and how it is that when they put schools in areas that the crime does increase. And our neighborhood is just, almost all of us are in our late 60s and 70s. And not only that, but our houses are very far removed from one another. We're not next door neighbors as a normal neighborhood is, because we're on, all of us have like an acre of land. And I think that makes us a soft target for people with bad intention. And I felt pretty safe up there because it wasn't very well known. Our whole area is not very well known. Our roads aren't generally used. However, that's going to change if they put a high school up there. We're going to have a lot of traffic, and so we're going to have people with too much energy and no good intentions. Say, buy a gun. I have a gun, but you know, it scares me more to think about using a gun than it does to think about my house being raided. So I just want to say that, again, here's another reason why we don't want a high school up there. Thank you very much.
Anyone else for public comment? If you fill out a card, if you want to speak under public comment. Okay. We'll close public comment and bring it back to council for action. Agenda, approval of the agenda. Anybody want to take anything out of order? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Smith.
Move to approve.
Second, Ms. Bybee?
Second?
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve the agenda as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Minutes, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting of September 11th, 2017. Any omissions, deletions, corrections? Okay, looking for a motion, Mr. Dare.
Move to approve.
Have a second? Ms. Bybee.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Dare, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve the minutes of the September 11th meeting. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously, one abstain, and you are abstaining.
I wasn't here.
Okay,
I was in Las Vegas,
that's a good,
representing Sparks.
that's a good place to be.
Good.
Okay, any further discussion? It passes unanimously with one abstention. Okay. Moving on to announcements. Commendation, Spanish Springs High School Cougar Marching Band. Who has that one? Chris? Go ahead, Chris.
So do we have some of the band up here? Come on up. That's right, we're leaving now. You help me with that?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. You wanna go ahead and sit down, guys? So I'll read this and then you guys can have, share a little something about your experience, so. This is from the city of Sparks and from our mayor and from all of us. It says, whereas the Spanish Springs High School Cougar Marching Band offers opportunities for students from the city of Sparks to excel in the performing arts, including competitive marching band, color guard, percussion ensembles, and concert bands. And whereas the Cougar Marching Band represents the city of Sparks with pride through performances and competitions throughout northern Nevada and northern California areas. And whereas the Cougar Marching Band has earned first place, ooh, nice job, and their class at the annual Sierra Band Crusade, recognized by the governor as the state championship event in the state of Nevada. And whereas the Cougar Marching Band supports local events by hosting the annual Nevada Day Battle of the Bands, and whereas the Nevada Day Battle of the Bands provides an educational competitive event for all the high school music programs in the region, and whereas the Nevada Day Battle of the Bands is celebrating the hosting of its 5th annual tournament on October 27th, 2017. Now, therefore, Gino Martini, mayor of the city of Sparks, Nevada, joined with the city council in commending and congratulating the members of the Spanish Springs Cougar Marching Band staff and volunteers for their outstanding season, especially their exceptional success at the annual Sierra Band Crusade, and for representing themselves, Spanish Springs High School, the entire Sparks community, and the county of Washoe with such distinction through their talent, hard work, and determination. In witness thereof, I honor you, and I have this for you. You want to share a little bit about your experience?
Actually, I'd like to introduce the two gentlemen to my left. But first off, Dan Marin for the record, and I'm not here as your contracts and risk manager at the moment. I'm here as a 7-year band dad to this program. I'm also the coordinator for the Nevada Day Battle of the Bands and have been since its inception 5 years ago, so I can speak to that event. First off, apologies from the director. Mr. David Morris is busy at the moment still teaching because the school day doesn't end for another 10 minutes, but we were lucky enough to get the two band captains to my left, DJ Latham and Bradley Burgett. The Cougar Marching Band, so that everybody knows, is a combined. It's not just horns, it's horns, it's drums, it's the color guard unit, and it's a great program, obviously, for the education of the students, their own pride and performance, and the social network that it sets up for themselves. And I offer myself as a benefit of that as a guy that measured his high school sweetheart who he met in marching band. Marching band is something else. The Nevada Day Battle of the Band I want to touch on really quickly because it is our 5th annual event. It's at Spanish Springs High School on October the 27th, which is the observed Nevada Day holiday. It's a Friday. The event starts at noon, and you're all, of course, cordially invited and welcome to come see what it's about. It's a large event in that we take up every parking lot at Spanish Springs High School with buses, equipment trucks, and students. We've got about 800 performers there in the course of 3 hours. This year we have 8 bands plus Spanish Springs will be performing an exhibition, but we have all the regional marching bands in Reno, out as far as Fernley and Carson, coming to our campus to compete. And to give you an idea of competition, if you go to a high school football game, The guys that put on the 9-minute show at halftime, that's the show they're working all year long to perfect and to compete against other groups in the area. And you spoke to the Sierra Band Crusade. In their class, this group has won first place the last several years. So we're very proud of that and happy to pass off to these guys, but they'd love to come up and take a picture with the mayor as well once you're done with them. You guys have anything to
You want to play an instrument?
I don't know what to say. This is cool. Marching band is fun. I've been in marching band all 4 years of high school. This is my senior year. Before that, I was in band since 4th grade. So this is like my 9th year playing trumpet now. And it's really fun. I believe it's made me who I am. And yeah.
I play French horn, but I play mellophone during the marching season as well. I'm also a senior in high school, so this is 7th year. I've been playing since 6th grade. Honestly, marching band felt like a second family to me because just about a year ago I moved from Hawaii. I came here and then just able to fit right back into the groove of things. So yeah, marching band has definitely changed me for the better.
What are you playing again, sir?
French horn.
And then in the marching band?
Mellophone.
Which is, what's a mellophone?
I don't know if you can see it, but it's on my dog tag right here.
No,
Yeah.
I can't see
Yeah, it's like very small, but you should.
Plays a tune on your dog.
Yeah.
Is it smaller than a sousaphone?
Yes, very. It's bigger than a trumpet, though. So.
Well, see, when I was in the band, I had to play the sousaphone because I was the biggest kid. I was the only one who could carry the band, so I got stuff. If you don't know what it is, it's one of those that wrap around you.
I'd like a picture of that, sir.
I can arrange that. So you want to do a picture?
They'll come up to you.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
You're in by yourself, brother.
Do you want council or just the mayor?
The audience.
Thank you so much.
Good job, good guy.
Good job. Congratulations.
Public speaking, the number one fear of everyone.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen, we appreciate it. Okay, so who's got 7-2? International Walk to School Day? Maybe I've got it.
It's MJ.
Go figure I have it. Hi, MJ, how are you? Good to see you. Again, I'll read the proclamation again for, I think this is probably the 10th or 12th year, but. All right, let me read the proclamation and then we'll put you on, dear.
Sir?
Whereas school travel by private family vehicle for students grades K through 12 accounted for 10 to 14% of the automobile trips made during the moving peak period in the past 2 to 3% of the local annual trips made by families and vehicles in the United States. And whereas reducing the number of vehicle driving students to school results in increased safety, reduced traffic congestion, improved air quality, and less fuel consumption in the vicinity of schools. And whereas the benefits related to physical activity and an early age play a leading role in reducing rates of heart disease, diabetes, and other obesity-related health problems among children. And whereas children walking and bicycling to school together with parents and caregivers opens opportunities to mentor children about pedestrian and bicycle safety and its benefits related to health and environment. And whereas walking and bicycling to school offers an opportunity to build physical activity into both parents and children's daily routines. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, October 11th, 2017 as International Walk to School Day in Sparks and encourage citizens of Sparks, Nevada to walk or bicycle with their children to school while celebrating the benefits of increased safety and health this day and throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I do have just a few words. It is with sorrow that I've chosen to go back to patrol with the school police, and the person taking over is Officer Roger Markison. He's going to do a great job as the Safe Routes to School coordinator. He couldn't be here today to let me introduce him to the council, but he will be here for the next event. Safe Routes to School looks forward to this event every year. It's a time when we can get our students to learn about healthy and safe ways. It offers the prime opportunity for us to demonstrate where they can stay healthy and be safe when they're walking to school. Walking and bicycling to school is a great way to spend time outdoors, get some exercise, and reduce the vehicle traffic around the schools. We have a big thank you to Councilwoman Cheryl Bybee. She came during Safety Week of the Homeowners Vista. She spent some time up in the community, and she presented at the Safety Assembly for Bud Beasley, and the students continue to talk about how great it was that she was there for their Safety Week. I hope other schools and other communities can embrace something like that program in their own environment. It was a perfect example on how to get the whole community together. Teachers are also encouraged to incorporate health and safety into their lessons and their curriculums in an effort to maximize the campaign efforts that Safe Routes to School does. The International Walk to School Day activities help raise awareness for walking and bike safety skills, and it reminds motorists to be vigilant and watching for the children who are out and about in their neighborhood. Last year, I reported on my son having been hit in the crosswalk, and it brought up a bunch of emotions here with the council. And although the good news is he's absolutely fine, they were very superficial injuries. The bad news is we're in our 8th week of school, and we've had our 6th vehicle versus student accident already, which is unprecedented. It's triple what we have already at this time of year, and I just can't strain enough about how important it is to bring awareness and have the vehicles watch out for pedestrians. We're always looking for ways to caution motorists about critical need for careful driving, not just in our school zones, but all over our community. The lives of our children really depend on us, and the Walk to School Day offers us a great opportunity to remind everyone to watch out for pedestrians and bicyclists when they're behind the wheel. So I appreciate your support all these years, and I look forward to working with the council in different ways. Thank you.
Questions? Well, thank you for what you've done in the past years. I know you're moving on, and we got somebody new coming on, but they'll do just as good a job as you. I'm sure you've done a great job, I know, in working with this particular program. So thank you very much for all you've done.
May I get a photo with the council?
Sure.
I'll come to you. Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Green iPhone. No. There's no I appreciate all the years of support, sir.
Okay, let's move on to 7.3, proclamation, the Committee to Aid Abused Women Day. Who has that? Charlene Bybee.
I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, then I'll let you say a few words and introduce yourself, okay? Proclamation. Whereas the Committee to Aid Abused Women, also known as CAW, is a Northern Nevada nonprofit organization providing free, confidential services for people experiencing family violence. And whereas the Committee to Aid Abused Women was founded in 1977 in a one-bedroom apartment by a brave, forward-thinking woman, becoming the first domestic violence program in the state of Nevada. And whereas the Committee to Aid Abused Women has grown to Northern Nevada's largest domestic violence program, providing shelter, transitional housing, and services to more than 10,000 survivors and their families each year, and 22,593 bed nights last year alone. And whereas CAW's services include a 24-hour emergency hotline, advocacy and individualized case management, emergency shelter, transitional housing, protection order assistance and support through domestic violence advocates, and whereas CAW continues to be progressive in collaborative partnerships such as NOAA's Reno at CAW to better serve our community and survivors by removing barriers for those who need to seek help, and whereas the Committee to Aid Abused Women is celebrating 40 years of providing services and support to victims of domestic violence. Now, therefore, Gino Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, does hereby proclaim September 28th, 2017 as a day in honor of the Committee to Aid Abused Women, signed this 4th day of September 2017.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Denise Jochsheimer. I'm the Executive Director of the Committee to Aid Abused Women. And thank you, Mayor Martini and council members. We greatly appreciate this honor. It means a lot to our organization. As a proclamation reads, we serve more than 11,000 individuals pretty much every year for more than 22,000 bed nights in our 3 different residential facilities. So the work is hard, but meaningful. We today, for example, have just about 63 individuals living in our residential facilities with their children, that includes children, receiving safety planning, goal planning, subsidized rent, financial literacy training, household supports in terms of clothing and household items, and more. So your support and the support from the entire community is really critical to the work that we do. And we look forward to celebrating 40 more years with you in the future. So thank you once again.
Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank CAW. For the last 26 plus years, our agency has been prosecuting crimes of domestic violence, and I've seen CAW grow. What you do for our victims of domestic violence is just outstanding, and you're one of the few truly community-oriented organizations that help protect the people in our community. So I would like to say thank you as well.
Thank you. Presentation project, Fire Prevention Week. Mr. King. You've never done this before, have you? Are you ready? It's probably pretty much the same as last year. But proclamation. Whereas the City of Sparks is committed to ensuring the safety and security of those living and visiting our community. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas U.S. fire departments respond to 365,500 home fires in 2015, according to the National Fire Prevention Association. And whereas U.S. home fires resulted in 2,560 civilian deaths in 2015, representing the majority, 78% of all U.S. fire deaths. And whereas fire responders of the city of Sparks are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2017 Fire Prevention Week theme, Every Second Counts, plans 2 ways out, effectively serves to educate the public about the vital importance of developing a home fire escape plan and with all members of the household and practicing it twice a year. Now therefore I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim October 8th to the 14th, 2017 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this city, and I urge all people of the City of Sparks to develop a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practice it twice a year, and to participate in the many public safety activities and efforts of Sparks Fire and Emergency Services during Fire Prevention Week 2017. Thanks, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
That's all I have. Better than that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for the proclamation. We really appreciate it. It's something that we take to heart for the community as fire and life safety. First, what I'd like to do is do an introduction or a reintroduction for some of you of my staff. And most of them are here today, so they can just raise their hand when I say their name. It's Dana Finacora. She's our administrative secretary. Chris McCubbins, our assistant fire marshal. Chris Van Ness, fire inspector. Don Parsons, fire inspector, and Frank Marvitz, our fire plans examiner. So now you can see him by face too, and that's always a good thing. So just real quick, a little history of Fire Prevention Week. NFPA has been an official sponsor of Fire Prevention Week since 1922. So this has been going on for quite some time. President Calvin Coolidge proclaimed the first National Fire Prevention Week on October 4th through 10th in 1925, beginning a tradition of the President of the United States signing a proclamation recognizing this occasion. It is observed on the Sunday through the Saturday period in which October 9th falls, in commemoration of the Great Chicago Fire, which began October 8th, 1871, and did most of its damage on October 9th. The horrific conflagration killed more than 250 people, left 100,000 homeless, destroyed more than 17,400 structures, and burned more than 2,000 acres. So it is really important for us to continue the efforts of fire and life safety and fire prevention for our community as a result of that happened that long ago. This year's theme is Every Second Counts, Plan 2 Ways Out, and that falls right in line with our current Project Safe smoke alarm education and installation program, which I'll talk just a little bit about at my next presentation. We're also doing a Home Depot Fire Safety Day at the Home Depot in Spanish Springs. We're partnering with them on October 7th. It'll be from 8 a.m. till noon, and they have a whole bunch of activities that go on for the community there. They market it pretty big as their Fire Safety Day, and they've asked us to partner with them, and luckily it's right in the same timeline as Fire Prevention Week. So we'll have a fire safety trailer out there and a whole bunch of different activities for the public. And then, of course, if we can turn on this here, we have our annual pancake breakfast, which we always like to market, and it's to help educate the public about fire prevention and the theme this year. And we're also going to be educating the public about the do's and don'ts of reporting emergencies during that day too. We'd like to invite you and the public out. It's our 28th annual pancake breakfast, and it's on October 14th from 8 a.m. till noon. We have many, many different types of events going on at the firehouse on that day, from tours, static events, car extrications, our fire safety trailer, Sparky the Fire Dog, a whole bunch of stuff. And we have not raised our prices in over 20 years for this, in fact, probably 28 years. So it's still $5 per person, except for seniors and children, it's $2 for them. Okay, so we'd like to invite everyone out for that. It'll be a fun day. Parking is really limited, though. We have a shuttle that is sponsored by the Nugget Casino Resort this year, and people can catch the shuttle at the west parking lot and just take the shuttle into the fire department, catch it to go back to their car after that. And if anyone is really a sports buff and likes to get a little exercise prior to the pancake breakfast, they're invited to our third annual First Alarm 5K walk run. And that'll be right before. It's at 6:30 in the morning. You can check in over in the west parking lot there. The participation does include getting pancakes afterwards, so that's always a good thing. Okay, and so that was it for the proclamation. I thank you again.
Bob? Okay, Project Safe Golf fundraiser results and plaque presentations. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you again very much. Bob King, Fire Marshal for Record. Project Safe, as I mentioned, I had mentioned just a little bit about it. It started back in 2006 as an educational program. It transformed into a multifaceted fire safety education and installation program for our community, for all the older homes in our community. Results to date: 3 documented smoke alarm saves, 2 documented carbon monoxide saves so far. So that's that we know about, that people have actually reported to us. So that's really a plus for our program to show that the ones that we installed, they did actually help save people in an emergency. We have installed over 3,500 smoke alarms in 1,171 homes, 785 carbon monoxide detectors, 64 hearing impaired devices, educated well over 2,500 adults and children with this program. And then we added an additional program, which you may remember, called Remembering When, Fire and Fall Safety for Older Adults. We added that a year ago as well, and we're taking that forward with it too. So any Sparks homes that are built prior to 1994 are the homes that we want to go out and install smoke alarms in, because they're the ones that usually only have 1 smoke alarm in their house. So we like to install them as nationally. Statistically, it says you should have 1 in every bedroom and 1 outside in the hallway as well. So we'll install them all for free, and then we'll do education, walk people through their homes, and have a good time with them as well. So funding for this program came way back when we had some FEMA funding, and then we weren't able to get FEMA funding anymore, so we tried to figure out another way to get funding for this, and that's what takes us to what we're talking about today. Is we have conducted 8 Project Safe golf fundraisers now to help continue bringing in the money for this program, and it's worked out really well. The max attendance each year is between 120 to 144 players for that. And what's most importantly about this isn't just any golf fundraiser that you would see out there. Every player truly learns a little bit about fire prevention when they're there. Because we even have a hole that when they get up there as a foursome, they have to answer 2 or 3 questions on fire safety before they can move on. And then if they answer them, they get an advantage on the hole. So truly, we can say out of those 144 players, we've educated every one of them in fire safety at a golf fundraiser. That's pretty neat. The proceeds from the golf fundraiser are used in many ways. We want to make sure everyone knows that we continue to purchase smoke alarms, CO detectors, hearing impaired devices, fire prevention, educational paraphernalia, tools and equipment for what we do. We maintain our fire safety trailer and all of our other props. We buy educational material. We buy material that we need for Remembering When program now. And then any other public fire safety education event we do in the community, that's what those funds are going towards. So it truly is going back to the community. So for today, I really wanted to give some recognition to our top sponsors. Of course, donations, donations and sponsorships are huge for a golf fundraiser in order to make it successful for proceeds. And we always seem to have some really top sponsors that come in and help us out. Today I have 4 top sponsors that I have plaques for. I tell them that I like to recognize them at a council meeting, and I'd like to do that now if I could. Okay, the first one is a premier sponsor since 2010. It's ABC Fire and Cylinder Services. I'll see if Nick Brown or anyone else from ABC is here today. I didn't see him in the crowd earlier. Okay, so we'll make sure that they get that. I'll present it to them at their office then. Okay. And then our premier sponsor since 2012 is Belfour Property Restoration, and I do know Chris Nelson is here today to accept that plaque. Thank you. And we have premier sponsor since 2014 is Coit of Reno, and it's Lonnie Fixel. He's the owner of Coit. And then our last one, I'm not sure if I saw anyone in the audience here, our title and lunch sponsor since 2017, so new to us this year, is a Nugget Casino Resort. Very good. Very good. And we're very happy to have you on board. And that was it. Thank you very much to Mr. Mayor and members of the council for allowing me to come in and do the recognition to our top sponsors.
Questions for Bob? Go ahead, Chris.
I'd like to say just thank you. I know on behalf of all of us, fire prevention is much better than the other side of the whole thing of actually having a fire. So all that, I think the biggest question is how can we continue to make sure if it's just golf tournaments and whatnot, or how can we continue to make sure that we're getting this word out there the best we can?
We do it through our marketing, especially through the Project Safe program. We'll continue marketing this out in the community. We try to do it at least every 2 months. We'll send out media releases, papers, just to get people to remember that e-education is out there, and they can call for it at any time at our office, and we'll schedule it for them.
Next is a presentation, 7.6 Arts and Economic Prosperity Survey, National, Nevada, and City of Reno.
Hello, my name is Alexis Hill from the City of Reno Arts and Culture Department.
Hi, I'm Shoshana Zeldner from the Nevada Arts Council.
Thank you very much for having us today. We're excited to talk about the economic impact survey results for the state of Nevada and the City of Reno. That have been done for the first time, especially in conjunction with the cultural master plan that Francine Burge from the City of Sparks will be presenting to the mayor and council today. And do you want to give a little background?
So The study that we're presenting is a national study. There were over 300 different official study partners. The City of Reno and the State of Nevada through the Nevada Arts Council were both official study partners. And it's the largest study of its kind. So it's assessing the economic impact of the nonprofit arts and culture industry. So this is only nonprofit, which is really exciting because it allows us to measure the return on investment for public funding. Cool. So this is actually not from the study, but just to give you a sense of the larger for-profit, nonprofit arts and cultural industry. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis found that the arts and culture make up about 4.2% of the nation's GDP. So that's a huge, huge impact.
So although there are many different smaller organizations, together they actually are bigger than the construction and transportation and mining industries. So nationwide, there is $166.3 billion spent in 2015 in the nonprofit arts industry as well as by audience spending. And these are some of the national findings that I think we want to really cut to locally and why these numbers are so important to our community.
Okay, cool. So, sorry. 164 organizations participated in this study. So where we got our data was from two different places: an organizational survey that nonprofit organizations did that looked at their expenses and revenues, and then from audience surveys surveying people who went to arts and cultural events and asking them how much they spent in relation to that event above and beyond the ticket price. So we found that there are actually about 600 nonprofit arts and cultural organizations, but I just want you to keep in mind that these numbers are only from about 28% of those organizations. So there weren't any estimates made. This is a really conservative number, so we can know that the impact is actually significantly larger. So overall, $471.7 million were spent in Nevada for nonprofit arts and culture, and then 230 by the organizations and 245 from audience members.
And in Reno, $89 million spent in arts and culture spending, $50 million by organizations and $39 million by audiences. This is more than double the national average for a city of Reno size. So it's very exciting to see that we have very healthy arts and culture organizations in the city of Reno. And to go back to how many organizations in Reno we surveyed 47 organizations with 92 eligible nonprofits, so we had a 51% return. And then we had 780 valid audience surveys. So these are just our those surveys. There are no estimates have been made on those, again, to clarify.
So again, you can see the impact on, these are full-time jobs that the arts and cultural industry is generating here in Nevada. So about 10,500 jobs are generated, and you can see almost 2,600 of them are in the city of Reno.
And I put on the back of the handout that I gave out today that at the top of the careers in Washington County schools being number one, University of Nevada being number two, the creative industries, which is our arts nonprofits and different people that work in the creative industries, would make up the third largest industry in Washington County. So I think there's 2,658 jobs. That kind of puts that number into perspective, even though there's not one employer. It's a way to understand those numbers a little bit better.
This is really exciting, I think. So from all of the spending that happens, $36.8 million is generated for local and state governments across Nevada. So that's huge. And at the Nevada Arts Council, we grant about $1 million in grants to organizations and artists. So that's tiny. And just for us to be able to put that $1 million out there and see the impact that we're having, it's, you know, not that we're funding every single organization, but we're funding a large number of them. So that $36.8 million, or the return on investment from something very small becomes really large and has a big impact in the local community.
And for the city of Reno, it's $8 million back into local, state, really local government revenue. The city of Reno gets $200,000 in grants to nonprofit arts organizations. have that number.
So I surveyed attendees for arts and cultural events, asking them what they spent in relation to the event, like meals, parking, babysitter, anything else they might have bought at the event. So we found the average is about $28.90 per person per event, above and beyond the ticket price.
And in the city of Reno, it's $29.78.
And then from the audience members, most were locals that we were surveying, so 91.3%, 8.7% were visitors.
And Reno, local versus non-local, non-local was 17.9%, and local 82.1%.
And this is why that is important. The non-locals are spending significantly more than the locals, almost $80, which is huge.
And another thing to know, 76.4% of non-local attendees said this argument is the primary purpose for our trip. So these audiences are looking for authentic experiences which arts and culture organizations bring for communities, as well as bringing quality right to the local events.
So another big finding from the study is just how important volunteerism is for the nonprofit arts and cultural industry. So from our surveys, we found that there were 11,000 volunteers working at these organizations who put in over 580,000 hours, which is equivalent to $13,700,000, which is significant.
And the city of Reno, there was 3,344 volunteers, equaling $5 million and of investment in volunteerism hours. And we put together the same amount of the city of Reno Point Arts Means Business infographic that we also passed out to you. So you can have these numbers at the end if people ask, right? Government should invest in arts and culture. I hope that this will be a tool. And we hope that the city of Sparks will participate in the survey in 5 years so we can have actually Sparks specific numbers for the future.
This is our last slide. Yeah, I really hope the city of Sparks will participate. I think you can see by the return of the numbers in general how many more surveys and organizational surveys we had from the city of Reno. So I'm hoping we can get Vegas, Henderson, Sparks on board next year. It's really great data. Thank you for having us.
And please let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's move on to 7.7, which is a presentation from EDON Expansion and Workforce.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members, and thank you for the opportunity to make this brief presentation today. For the record, Nancy McCormick, Senior Vice President with Retention, Expansion, and Workforce Development for EDON, the Economic Development Authority of Western Nevada. I joined EDON in April of 2012, actually, when I retired from AT&T as the Regional Vice President of Sales. I came on board about 6 months after Mike Kazmierski, our CEO, joined EDON. I know that much of what you hear about regarding EDON is the business development and attraction side of things. So it's great to have this opportunity to speak with you not only about my three-legged stool, as our CEO calls it, the business retention, expansion, workforce development. But you can also see from this slide that we engage in a variety of activities in the region that include and impact the city of Sparks. And a couple of key ones from this slide would be certainly the Washington School District 1 passing of that funding proposal, the EPIC Economic Planning Indicator Committee report, which really pulled together a lot of resources to forecast overall growth in the region, and then the work that we're doing to encourage the building of housing in order to have adequate workforce housing and overall for the community as we continue to grow. Before I go into the actual day-to-day activities, I just highlight examples of online resources that we are providing to private companies in the city and in the region. And I've passed out some binders that have some of these in them. I've given you a hard copy of our workforce resource guide, also an activity book called My Future, to students in Washington County School District, 3rd and 4th graders, to help them and their parents think about the many opportunities and different types of careers and skills that are available in the community. Our online toolkit includes information about things like transportation, background checks, and our primary company list. Our primary company list is a compilation of all of the companies that I and my team have visited over the past 5 years. It has over 500 companies listed with an explanation of who they are, where they are, what they do. And it's used by individuals and companies both within and outside the region. And then, of course, we also include Sparks companies in our existing industry award, which is coming up on October 24th. And this event is really to make sure that we are recognizing existing companies as well as all of the new companies coming to the region. My team consists of 3 people, myself, Egan, my administrative assistant, as well as our Connie, who is our program manager for workforce development. So when we go out and visit companies, we basically want to get to know them so we understand who they are and what they do. We want to identify any issues that they may have. We want to connect them with resources that they may not be aware of. And we want to certainly help them find, contact workforce resources and retain their existing workforce. So we do a lot of things depending on what the needs are of the specific business that we are visiting. One example that I brought of a Sparks company, just to give you an idea, is ITS Logistics. I first met with them in 2013 to first make the introduction and understand who they were and what they do. We also visited them twice in 2015, where we talked about the workforce. We did a deep dive visit to understand their current and future workforce needs, visited them again to talk specifically about CDL drivers and whether there's a way to set up some sort of apprenticeship program for that. They pick on our Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals. We have a number of industry councils that we lead up. And of course, they have participated in our existing industry awards. They won the Corporate Citizen Award in 2016, Company of the Year Large in 2013, and Significant Expansion also in 2013. So that's just an example of the kinds of things that will come up when we are talking with our companies. So in 2016, because of the success of attracting companies and supporting the growth of existing companies, we wanted to go ahead and add a little bit more focus really on the workforce development plan. So we created our community workforce plan, which is based on the foundation you see on the slide, which has multiple tactics and strategies built into each target area. So the retention is to help companies understand the importance of retention of their employees, provide them with wage data and other information that they may need to help keep the employees that they have. The connection is on multiple levels with resources, also connecting the workforce resources with each other. The training is to make sure that the training that exists in the community matches up to the needs of the existing and expanding businesses that are growing in the region. And then the last part is attraction, and this is actually attraction of workforce to make sure we have the workforce that we need in order to meet the needs of these companies that are here and also the companies that are growing. So our workforce activities, these are the general activities. We co-lead the Workforce Consortium, which is a group of service providers, training providers, and government representatives. We also work to connect with high school equivalency programs, K through 12, college and the university. And the attraction of workers may not be something that you know that much about. See, I have people Society of Women Engineers up here. You also have in your folder all of our workforce initiatives, sort of a folio of different initiatives that we pursued in the last fiscal year, many of which are attraction of actual employees. We've got billboards, we've got Craigslist campaigns, and a variety of other things. So we also provide support for hiring, connecting them with people like Job Connect and so forth, where they can make sure that they're able to find the workforce that they need. On workforce development projects, we also have a number of projects that certainly impact the city of Sparks. The Washington School District Tours, we have brought out over 400 individual educators from Washoe County School District throughout all the different schools to actually visit with companies, including companies in Sparks such as Now Foods, such as Via Seating, to actually get an idea of what these companies do, who they are, and what types of jobs and positions they have, and what kinds of skilled resources that they need. As I mentioned, we have the sector councils. I've included the copy of the Workforce Resource Guide. We have educational forums. This one that I've noted on this slide is the Learn and Earn Career Pathways, and that is matching up the actual programs within multiple levels of the education system with the needs of the employers. So we're bringing in the employers in Sparks and the rest of the community to give direct feedback to make sure that the curriculum is matching up to what they need. We are promoting companies to job seekers. When I get a lot of inquiries from job seekers about that are moving to the region about where they can find a job, certainly promote companies. We're actually, Sierra Nevada Corporation is probably joining us on our trip to the Society of Women Engineers coming up, and we'll be talking to students that come up. We promote internships across the Washoe County School District, including the manufacturing technician programs at Sparks High School, and we encourage apprenticeship participation across the board. So specific to Sparks, 36 visits to Sparks companies made by myself and my team within this last year. I'm happy to report there were no critical issues in this fiscal year that were brought up to the team by companies in Sparks. We had 4 Sparks companies that we made business-to-business connections for others, and then we had 4 business-to-business connections that were made to Spark companies where they were out of the region, but we referred them to a company in Sparks to purchase or procure a service or support or product from a Sparks company. We have 8 Sparks in our existing industry awards in 2016 and had 3 winners. And then I did help with the ITS expansion in March of 2016, which created 55 jobs and was a multi-million-dollar capital investment. So we're out doing a variety of things across the board. And now if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Thank you. We very much appreciate your support. We very much look forward to continuing to support the great companies in Sparks and the new ones that are coming to Sparks as well.
Next, we have 7.8 regional plan. How long is your presentation, Kim?
Approximately 3 minutes.
7.8, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I believe we have a presentation. It's on the desktop. Thank you. Sorry. In the meantime, as most of you know, I'm Kim Robinson. I'm with the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, and I'm here today to talk to you, give you an update. Actually, I guess chat with you a little bit about our update in terms of our 2017 regional plan update. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by trying to turn this on. Here we go. So what we'd like to start with today is we've created a video that actually talks a little bit about our agency, and we're taking it out to the various groups that we're talking to, and I'd like to play that for you today. Should potentially, I will tell you this, it's worked in some places and not others.
TMRPA is the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, responsible for coordinating planning across Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County. TMRPA is made up of the Regional Planning Governing Board, the Regional Planning Commission, and agency staff. By promoting collaboration and addressing growth, the agency ensures efficient use of resources. To accomplish this, TMRPA develops and maintains the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. The regional plan is built upon the agency's various technical analyses. For example, the consensus forecast, which is a 20-year look at population and employment growth. Here, the locations of population growth are shown in red and employment growth in yellow. In order to do this forecast, TMRPA CMRPA tracks potential development. This flyover depicts areas mapped for future development. This allows for a comprehensive look at planned growth. Understanding development potential helps us to imagine different futures for our region, called scenarios. Here you can see a simulation of possible future development on currently vacant lots in Midtown and downtown Reno. Scenarios allow us to assess potential impacts and make informed decisions about growth. Visit plantruckymeadows.org to get involved.
Didn't mean to rush you along there.
Coordination around the use of land, and regional issues of coordination, such as water, air quality, and roads. We do this across Washoe County with an emphasis on the more populated areas. TMRPA develops and maintains a plan that coordinates growth across our region, and it has a 20-year horizon. So a question I get asked a lot is, why should we plan regionally? And the answer is because growth knows no boundaries. You may live in Sparks, work in Reno, and play in Washoe County, but the need for resources such as roads, water, and schools transcends jurisdictional lines. Who do we coordinate with? Something else we get asked a lot too. And everybody up here, every agency up here, we've done some type of work with. Our data analysis have been used by a variety of groups, including EDON and the Western Regional Water Commission. And in fact, since 2012, we have completed 40 collaborative projects and leveraged over $1 million from our regional partners, maximizing that investment of government dollars. So why I'm here today is because we've recently launched the public participation phase of the 2017 Regional Plan Update. It's a 5-year update, and our community has changed a lot in the past 5 years. I don't think I need to tell any of us that, right? Whether it's economy, demographics, or land uses, we've seen a lot of changes and we expect more. We want to be prepared. Since the regional plan addresses topics such as population, conservation, and infrastructure, this is the perfect opportunity for folks to engage and get involved. And that's what we're asking for here today. We have our first survey up at plantruckymeadows.org. It's a community survey about growth. We're asking for folks to go to this website, take the survey, sign up for our newsletters, share it on your social media. We're looking forward to getting more responses. I can say that we launched on August 24th and we've had quite good success. So please share, and I'd like to say thank you for your time. I'm available for any questions.
Kim, thank you for being here today. The regional plan update is really important, especially for this region, given the growth that we're experiencing, the changes that are happening in our whole region, not just in Sparks, but the whole region. I would encourage everyone to take that survey. I don't know if I'm going to put my counterparts on the hot seat to see if they've taken it, but I'm hoping the whole council, all of you out there, and people who are watching this, the community members, take the survey. It's fast. You know, I mean, 5 minutes max, 3 to 5 minutes to take the survey, and there'll be a series of surveys. But if you really want to know what this region is going to look like, you have to have your voice heard. So I would encourage you all to please go online, plantruckymeadows.org, and fill out the survey. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Kim. Okay. So we, do we have the people we need, or?
You want to try and get a hold of Garrett real fast? We'll move on to the next item.
Yeah, let's. So those in the audience, we'd like to move items 11.1 and 11.2 up to be heard right now, as there's some obligations that need to be met by some of the principals in this particular. You guys got everybody you need, Garrett? Yes, sir. And does council have a problem with doing that? Okay. Okay, we're gonna hear 11-1, 11-2. You're gonna do those together and then we'll vote separately, Armando?
We'll do them, Okay, good afternoon, Mayor Martini, members of the City Council. I am Armando Ornelas, the Assistant Community Services Director, and I am filling in this afternoon for Development Services Manager Karen Melby. This agenda item, Bill number 2724, is an ordinance providing for voluntary annexation into the City of Sparks of two parcels totaling 3.47 acres in size located at 3650 Wedekind Road. So you can see outlined in the red is the parcel. Wedekind is to the north, on the north boundary of the parcel, and it is surrounded on two sides by City of Sparks. On June 15th, 2017, the Sparks Planning Commission voted to forward a recommendation of denial to the City Council of this annexation request due to the negative fiscal impact to the city arising from the potential annexation that would be triggered by development of this property of Wedekind Road between Sullivan Lane and El Rancho Road. Staff concurs with the recommendation of denial. However, the city has received a letter from Garrett Gordon, who is representing the applicant. Mr. Gordon is proposing an alternative primary access to the property, which could potentially eliminate the trigger requiring the City of Sparks to annex portions of Wedekind Road and therefore substantially affect the fiscal analysis for this project. This is important new information which materially affects this annexation request and, by extension, the fiscal impact analysis. So the thought here is that there is a church property to the southwest of the site that would grant an easement for this property, and so that would move potentially the primary access off of Wedekind and to the south. So given that this is important new information, staff is recommending, and I think in his letter, Mr. Garrett concurs with this, that the case be remanded back to the Planning Commission so that we can consider the access, the alternative access, as well as what the implications are in terms of the fiscal analysis. I am prepared to do a full presentation on the item if the council wants to consider either approving or denying it. But if you wish to remand the case back to the Planning Commission, then I would recommend that you make that motion now. The rezoning request is tied to this. The city cannot rezone what it hasn't annexed, and so if you don't act on the annexation, then you can't consider the rezoning request.
Well, let me understand, Armando, if we elect to remand it back, we can do a public hearing on 11-1 and do what we have to do, but we still have to have a public hearing on 11-2, even though it is not done because it's agendized. Is that right, Chad?
I know that's always been your position in the past. I think it's a matter of why we moved 11.2, so you can probably, if you were to decide to remand 11.1, 11.2, then the amendment moved. Still have a hearing on the matter if you want. Would not have jurisdiction to the
Well, as an abundance of caution, I'd probably like to hear it anyway.
That's certainly the chair's discretion, sir. You're free to do that.
That's fine. If you want to hear it, we'll hear it. But I was going to say we're going to hear it again anyways after it goes back to Planning Commission.
I agree, but it's been agendized, and there's people here that maybe wanted to speak on it. So we have no issues and nothing down the road. If we let everybody have their say, it's not going to take that long, I don't believe.
I completed my initial presentation on up to the point where I was suggesting that if you were going to remand that, no further presentation would be necessary on my part. If you do want the full presentation, then I will go into the findings and the reasons, why various findings can or cannot be made.
As to the public hearing,
You still have to have the public hearing.
So, process for me then would be to open the public hearing. Excuse me, ask for questions, close it, and then remand it, or then vote on a remand to the, okay. So, I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone want to speak? Anyone in the public want to speak to 11.1? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Do we have any kind of suggestions or motions? Mr. Lawson?
I'd like to make a motion to remand 11.1 back to the planning commission to consider the new easement that has been presented.
Mr. Dare?
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lawson, second by Mr. Dare to remand 11.1 back to the planning commission for review. Any other questions? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, so that will be remanded back to planning commission. Now, just for giggles, we'll open the public hearing on 11.2. Anyone want to speak to 11.2? Seeing none, we'll close 11.2 and bring it back to the council, which needs no action on this particular item. Is that correct? Okay, so we're done, right? Okay, you guys are done. Thanks.
Painless. Thank you, guys. Thanks for working with us, too.
Okay, let's move back to consent items. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, we did the regional plan. Okay. Consent items 8.1 through 8.3. Anybody want to pull a consent item? Ron Smith.
Move to approve consent items 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3.
Lawson.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Lawson. Seeing none, please vote. What's that? General business 9.1, presentation, discussion, and possible approval of the 2017-18 dues for the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. For the record, my name is Wes Henderson. I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities. And the first thing I want to do, of course, is thank the City of Sparks for their membership and participation in the league. You know, we're your league, but we get our strength from our members, so we appreciate your participation. You all should have received earlier this year a copy of our legislative report. I do want to talk briefly about a couple of things that happened during the session, but if you didn't get a copy of the report, please let me know. We'll make sure that you get one. As you know, the league is authorized to submit 5 BDRs each legislative session. This year we submitted 4. And we were successful in getting one of those passed. The bill that we got passed was Assembly Bill 8. This expands the existing authority that cities had to place delinquent sewer bills on the property tax rolls for collection. As of October 1st, you can now place delinquent water bills or storm drain bills on property tax rolls for collection as well. Obviously, this is a collection method of last resort, but we felt it was a tool that you should have. Some of the other bills that I'd like to touch on is Assembly Bill 417. This bill creates the Nevada Main Street Program. As you recall, in 2015, the league had a bill to create this program. We were unsuccessful, but Assemblywoman Swank brought it back, found the money to fund the position, and got it passed. And Main Street is a great program. Yeah, it's good for economic development, it's good for tourism, and it's good for quality of life and your economy. Senate Bill 176 was passed. This bill requires that no later than July 1st of 2018, all uniformed law enforcement personnel that deal with the public on a regular basis wear body cameras. There was a funding provision in the bill that would allow the county commission to increase the 911 fee and use some of that money to help pay for body cameras and the recording or the storage devices. Unfortunately, it was left at the county commission level, so hopefully Washoe County will step up and do the right thing. There was a companion bill, Senate Bill 88, that would have created an avenue for a law enforcement agency to go to the Interim Finance Committee for a grant. That bill passed out of the Senate 21-0, went to the Assembly, was referred to Ways and Means Committee, and never got a hearing. So that did not pass. We wished it had. There are several workplace accommodation bills that were passed this session. Assembly Bill 113 requires that all public employers, and private employers with 50 or more employees provide a clean private area for a woman to express breast milk during the workday. Assembly Bill 241 requires that cities include a provision in their building codes, or if you don't have a building code, adopt an ordinance that requires that all public buildings or facilities that are constructed after October 1st of this year have changing tables in the restrooms. There are some exceptions, such as if it's an age-restricted business, such as a bar, you don't have to have a changing table in the bathroom, and hopefully there won't be babies in the bar anyway. And then finally, Senate Bill 253, the bill established the Nevada Pregnant Workers Fairness Act to provide protections to female employers and applicants for employment who are affected by a condition of pregnancy or childbirth. There was a couple of districts that were created that were authorized during this last session. Assembly Bill 246 revises provisions related to the creation of local improvement districts and that will allow 2 or more contiguous municipalities to enter into an interlocal agreement for the creation and operation of an improvement district. And then Assembly Bill 379 authorizes local governments to create a parks, trails, and open space district. And then the main subject of this legislative session seemed to be marijuana. And you know, I spent probably 70% of my time on marijuana-related issues. And just want to touch on a few of those real quick. Assembly Bill 135, the main thing this bill does is says you can no longer use the presence of marijuana or marijuana metabolites in urine as proof of intoxication when you're operating a vehicle. That now has to be proven through a blood test. Assembly Bill 422, this bill I kind of refer to it as the Keep Pot Away from Kids bill. It says that one thing, to transfer responsibility for the regulation from the Division of Public and Behavioral Health to the Department of Taxation. It made changes to the registry identification cards for medical patients. Now they reduced the cost from $100 to $50, and the cards can now be good for up to 2 years on the recommendation of a doctor. The bill also prohibits the use of vending machines to sell marijuana, which I didn't know they had. But the important part of this bill to this city council and all the city councils are there are some restrictions that were placed into this bill and also in a couple other bills that limits your ability to regulate and license marijuana businesses. The main things it did is it capped the business license fee that you can charge marijuana businesses to 3% of their gross revenue. We testified against that provision several times, saying it's not the state legislator's job to tell cities what they can charge for business license fees, and that this should not be considered precedent setting. We had the sponsor of one of the bills, I think you guys may know her, Senator Ratty, who came up after we had testified and put on the record that that was not the intention of this bill, was to be considered a precedent. But because the marijuana industry is unique, that's why they felt the 3% cap was important. We also, the bill also provides that the incorporated city may impose any fees required pursuant to NRS 278, which is the business license chapter. You can also charge an origination or application fee, similar to those fees that you charge alcohol businesses under NRS 369. And you can also require an ancillary or a separate business license for ancillary businesses at a marijuana establishment, such as if a retail store or dispensary is selling T-shirts or something like that. That's not covered by their license for the marijuana establishment, so you can require them to have a second business license for that. There are also restrictions that were put on local governments that you cannot adopt any ordinance that is more restrictive than state law or regulations regarding the packaging, labeling, testing, dosage, or potency of marijuana and marijuana products, the kinds of edible marijuana products, and marijuana-infused products that may be sold, the use of pesticide in the cultivation of marijuana, and the tracking of marijuana from seed to sale, and the transportation of marijuana and marijuana products other than the direct transportation to the consumer. However, you can require a marijuana distributor to notify the city anytime marijuana is being transported within your city limits. And it also contained language that provides that a person obtain a business license from the state is subject to all other licensing and permitting requirements of the state and any other counties and cities in which the person does business. That was important to get that in statute, to just reassert that local governments do have the authority and the right to regulate and license marijuana businesses. Senate Bill 344, this is actually the keep pot out of kids bill. This bill said that it prohibits the production of products that resemble lollipops or other items that may appeal to children. You can't use cartoon characters on advertising, and it requires marijuana dispensaries and retail stores to offer for sale a child-resistant container. So if an adult goes in and purchases marijuana, they can buy a container to make it more difficult for children to get to the product. And then finally, Senate Bill 487. This bill made various changes. It changed the tax structure on medical marijuana. Medical marijuana was being taxed 2% at cultivation, 2% at production, 2% at retail. This bill changed that to align it with the tax structure that was contained in question 2. So now all marijuana is taxed 15% at the cultivation level. What this does is it allows the industry to not have to make a determination once a plant is viable if it is a recreational plant or a medical plant, and track them separately through the system. Now they can all be tracked the same. The only distinction is made at the point of sale. The bill also provides that of the 15% excise tax on the imposed on cultivation, it deems $10 million for the next biennium as sufficient to cover the cost of all local governments in the state. You know, we obviously were opposed to that. We don't know what the costs are going to be, but that is in the bill and is law. How that money is going to be distributed is still not been determined, and we'll be talking about that more in the coming weeks and months. The bill also imposed a 10% excise tax on the retail sale of recreational marijuana. That money goes into the state's rainy day fund. Local governments do not get any of that. And it also provided an avenue for smaller cities and counties under 100,000 that don't have a medical dispensary to get one. One thing I didn't mention, of the 650 bills passed by the legislature, the governor vetoed over, I think, 41 of them. We were very thankful that he vetoed some. If you'll remember, back in 2015, there was legislation that made modest reforms to collective bargaining and the prevailing wage statutes. Prevailing wage that raised a trigger, which was established in 1985, from $100,000 to $250,000. And the collective bargaining in the evergreen clause, which means the contract lived on forever regardless. Both of those reforms were rolled back by the legislature to where they were prior to the bills passing in 2015. The governor vetoed both of those bills, so everything stayed the way it was. And then a couple of quick updates on some league items. Our conference is coming up very, very soon. It's October 10th and 12th at Mesquite. I know several of you are coming down, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. We are fine-tuning the program. I mean, most of it's done, but we're fine-tuning. I think we're going to have some really good educational sessions. Our keynote speaker for our opening general session is a gentleman who is a 3-time cancer survivor. He had to teach himself how to walk again. And since that time, he has completed a marathon on all 7 continents. So I'm really interested in hearing his story. The general sessions and the educational sessions, to me, are the meat and potatoes of the conference. But I think just as important are the social events where you get to interact in a relaxed attitude or more relaxed environment with your colleagues from across the state and get to know each other, talk to each other. And you know, you may have a concern up here that somebody else has already had and resolved. So we certainly hope you can make that. And the National League of Cities City Summit this year is in Charlotte, North Carolina, November 15th to 18th. And I encourage you to attend that if you can, because then you can do the same thing with your colleagues from across the country. And they're very, very informative. I did see it. I don't understand this because next year's conference is in Los Angeles, okay? One of the keynote speakers in North Carolina is going to be Magic Johnson. So I'm just wondering if next year in Los Angeles is going to be Michael Jordan. I mean, I don't know. So that's my presentation, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. However, I do have one additional thing I need to do before I take questions. Last year at our conference here, Mayor Martini was named our Public Official of the Year, which is the highest award that the league gives out. I had to take the trophy back out of his office today so that I can take it down to Mesquite and give it to this year's honoree. But I do have a plaque for you, which memorializes that you are the 2016 Public Official of the Year.
Sorry. Thanks, Wes. Well, thanks to Wes and the other officials at the League of Cities. This is really unbelievable. It's a great honor to be awarded this. Thank you to you and
You're more than welcome. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, we are here to
I'm interested in this part too.
Dues payable. Any questions about the dues? Charlene?
I'm just ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
If there's no questions. I move to approve the 2017-18 dues for the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities in the amount of $20,418,000.62.
Mr. Smith?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve the dues for the Nevada League of Cities. Further question? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. For me, Wes, thank you so much. It's been much better with the league since you've joined the organization. We've gotten a lot more done, a lot more to be done that's coming, I'm sure. So we really appreciate it, especially through the legislature. I shouldn't say there, I'm sorry. The legislature itself, the whole process is kind of a pain. It's tough to get around and talk to people and everything. So thank you so much for what you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then, like I said earlier, we derive our strength from our members, so we appreciate your active participation.
Okay, 9.2, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the funding allocation of $15,000 to supplement the Nuggets Rib Cook-Off and Hot August Nights for additional police costs. Go ahead.
Right, Francine Burge, City of Sparks Special Events Supervisor. Thank you. We received 2 requests from Hot August Nights and Rib Cook-Off to help offset some additional costs in police and SWAT costs. So we met, the Tourism and Marketing Committee met at early August to disperse $7,500 each, which takes our numbers down to 0 for that fund for this year. And that's it.
Any questions? Justified, no problem. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's sweet. Go ahead.
Justified, no problems. Ron?
You know, I know we come back to the Tour Mark Committee and we voted on that. And unfortunately, the state of the world today requires more police coverage. And I think our police department covered all the events very well. We didn't have any problems, but thought it was justified, so that's why it was approved. So unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
We found a few extra dollars in there too.
Right.
Good, Chris.
Is that something that, is it because we mandated, we actually were saying we needed more people down there, or is it something they requested more people?
No, we mandate what the coverage should be. It comes from the police department.
Up beyond what they had budgeted originally?
Yeah, the chief's shaking his head yes.
It's actually pretty comforting to look around and see the police everywhere.
Brian On, your Sparks Police Chief, for the record. What can I answer for you, sir?
I just wanted, so just for the record, in the sense of other events or other whatever, we had originally came out and said this is originally what they had budgeted, and so because of different things we've been through, we changed our procedural of what we're asking them, or just stayed the same?
Over the course of the years, we kind of have figured out these events with standardized what we would need on each night. Beginning last summer, we kind of caught the promoters a little bit off guard when we said we also now need additional resources for all of these different things that have been happening either nationally or internationally at different large events. And so those were rolled into this year's costs as well. So it's just an increase in cost based on the type and nature of things that we need to prepare for and the potential of possibilities that can occur at those types of events.
The reason I ask, I just don't want other events coming back saying, well, because they maybe misbudgeted or did something, then they come back and say, well, we need more. So it really comes down to more that we change some of what what we were asking. Is that correct?
Last year, yes. This year, it was. I thought it was our belief that it was. They knew that the increased costs were coming, but again, over the historical period, they are increased costs. But last year we caught them off guard a little bit, but this year they should have had full knowledge that these are the costs of the events moving forward.
They had a year to plan, and it was in their estimate.
Look, folks, my original question was just to get it on the record that it was justified. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody by any means, but I'm sure that we definitely needed this money. Probably could have used more as we thought about it. As with all the stuff and crazy things that are going on today, who knows what's going to happen in a prescription. We always do a great job, so I'm not questioning anybody's reasons for doing it. I'm sure it's justified.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Reynolds, I'm sorry.
Just to frame this for the council, we go through the process and we are involved in sponsoring some events. These two events, we are a sponsor. Both agencies knew what was going on with the police services. Both of them agreed. Both of them understood it was necessary, and they encouraged that. What they did do is they respectfully came back after their allocations to just ask the question of the Toromar Committee that if there was anything available and if the Toromar Committee was willing to entertain possibly adding a little to help offset those costs, they would appreciate it. As it turned out, we did have an event not happen, and therefore that money was available, was not requested by anybody else for anything. And so the Toromar Committee did consider it and thought that it was reasonable, and they were very appreciative of the respectful ask. And so therefore, that's what they took into consider in their additional action. So this is something that will probably not happen again. The money through the allocation process is the money, and the amount of expense that we're obligated to incur as decided by the police and fire chief is based on international and national events. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well spent, I'm sure. Mr. Smith.
And Benjamin made a great point there. We had an event canceled, so that's the only reason we had these extra funds. So we put in the security, and I thought they did a wonderful job. So I'm ready to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the funding allocation of $15,000 to supplement the Nuggets Rib Cook-Off and Hot August Nights for additional police cost as recommended by the Tourism Marketing Committee.
Do you have a second, Mr. Lawson?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve 9.2. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
9.3, consideration, discussion, and possible acceptance of the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee's Mission and Strategic Plan 17 through 20. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Sarah Tony. I'm the Development Director at Notable Music Therapy Services and here as the Chair of the Sparks Arts and Culture Advisory Committee. And I'm just really glad to be here today, so thanks to the council and to the mayor. I'm really excited by what's going on with arts and culture and Sparks. And being a part of that. So just to back up a little bit, this strategic plan is coming out of 5 public input meetings that we started earlier in the year. And we took everything that we learned from what the citizens of Sparks were telling us through this process, and we developed our mission and then came up with a strategic plan from there. Because truly, arts and culture is about
solving problems in the community. It's also about building the community that we're in. And so we're doing this in a way to honor Sparks and to really identify what makes Sparks individual and unique and go from there. So the mission of the City of Sparks Arts and Culture Advisory Committee is to support the community by facilitating investment in the arts and culture in order to nurture creative communities, enhance quality of life, and encourage civic pride. And by that, we're talking about specifically Sparks, because the identity of Sparks is really important to us. So the plan, as we go into the plan, a big part of it is community engagement, advocacy, and communication. So we put that right up in front. And so, and there's the 3 different audiences that we really want to talk to. You guys are one of them, because we want you to know that we're here to be a part of making your lives better and to making the city better. So arts is an amazing way to solve problems. And so we want to be a part of that. We also want to be part of building vitality and economic strength. Number 2 is we want to talk to the citizens of Sparks. There's already good work happening. There's already a lot of vitality and art and cultural vitality happening here already. So we need to be telling that story in a way that's coherent and engaging, so that people aren't getting in their cars on Friday after work driving to Reno. They can be staying in Sparks. And the 3rd is the artists. We want to be talking to artists and about how we can support them in their work here, how we can connect them and the people who live here, how we can connect them and the businesses to lift everybody's boats together. So going into the plan, we're working on fulfilling our mission through public programming, planning and design, economic development, and education. And again, this came out a lot from the comments from the 5 initial meetings. So for the initial programming, we were looking at doing a mobile program for all ages and all abilities, in large part to engage marginalized populations, including our veterans or people with disabilities or lower income. It's also incredible what can happen when you engage people in art in their own neighborhood. There's a lot of really great stories that can be told about even reduction in crime. So that's one of the things we're looking at. Also bringing more of Art Town to Sparks. For planning and design, we're available and interested in working with all city departments to facilitate the investments in the city's infrastructure. And just creating an arts-friendly town, and also, again, to help solve problems. So part of that is the downtown placemaking. The Sparks downtown is beautiful, and there's a lot of infrastructure already there. There's a lot of special events already there, but if it's not a special event day, it's awfully quiet. So part of what we want to do is create more of a place where people want to be on a daily basis, and art can really do a lot to do that. So that's part of what we're talking about. Public art as well as temporary art, creating, coming up with recommendations of where public art should be going, what kind of art should be placed, and also what kind of temporary installations can be coming and going to create a little bit more dynamism in what's going on in town. Oh, am I talking too long? Okay, sorry. And then also economic development. Sorry, I've never done this before. Does it show? So the economic development, I hope you were impressed by some of those numbers that were presented by Alexis and Shosh earlier. It's really pretty incredible to me, as someone who works in the arts nonprofit world, that we may be small as individual organizations, but we do provide an incredible economic boost to what's going on. So I think if we're strategic about it, and when we have every intention to be, that we can bring a lot of economic development into Sparks through bringing more art in to businesses, doing the Last Friday campaign. There's a lot of things that we can do there. And finally, education. Sparks already does great arts education programming, but we think we can do more, and we can do more to integrate it into the schools and get the word out into what's already available. So that is the rough structure of the plan, and some of the feedback that we've gotten already, I think has been really positive, but also one of the concerns is that the plan is perhaps a little thin. I think people were thinking that it would be more bold than it is, but one thing to keep in mind is that we have a half-time staff and a fairly modest budget to get started, but we have great intentions. So as we get our feet going and we get some motivation and we find our own voice as a city in creating the arts and culture that we want to see here, then I'm sure there'll be more bold plans for the future. But as first steps, I feel really strongly about what we've come up with.
Questions? Mr. Dare?
Yes, I think art is awesome as well. I think it's wonderful to go in and check it out and stuff. What's going to be your guys' first win? What I mean by that, you have a list. I've kind of read through all your different things that you, when it comes to something that we could put downtown, do you have any idea of what that might look like yet? Or are we still in the phase where we just know we're putting the budget and we don't know exactly what we want to do yet, or something that we can get behind?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about the VET program.
Wonderful.
So I'm saying this with two hats on. So I'm also the development director for Notable Music Therapy Services, and the Drew Coolidge Foundation people came to us recently, and they want to partner with us to do something for the vets with music. Tina's been saying that she's like, I know we need to talk to you. I know we need to talk to you. We didn't know what to do. And so we decided that maybe the next step was to do a songwriting program for the vets that are already in the writing group, and then invite other people in. In music therapy, doing songwriting is an incredibly powerful way to express those things that are hard to say. I've seen it a million times when people can't tell you how they're feeling, but then they can write a song. It's incredible. So what we were thinking about doing is an 8-week program, 8 to 12 weeks, depends on what the Drew Coolidge Foundation ultimately wants to do, and then having a performance at the Sparks Museum. I think it could just be really powerful, and that's something that's already underway. And I called Francine about it last week, and it's like, I think this could really fit into something that the city of Sparks could get behind. So there's stuff like that happening already, yeah. And then in terms of like public art, Francine would maybe have to answer that one.
So I have a copy of the, you know that I'm applying for an NEA grant. I just started uploading things this morning, so this is just a copy of the directions.
Nice.
So, kind of all long and involved, but it's a very exciting first step of putting together the Our Town grant, which is for a placemaking project for downtown, which will include an extensive, energizing public input campaign to bring in all voices to say what they would like to see downtown. That's the important first step in making a placemaking project to make sure that it's reflective of it. So I'm very excited about it.
Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you for being here. And I think obviously you all were there, and want to congratulate Francine again on being named Art Advocate of the Year from the EDON Arts and Business Luncheon that was just held last week. That really, truly, if you don't, and I'm not an artist, a lot of us are not, but really understanding how art and business, your speaker, Jay Dick, did an incredible job reminding people that art is business, and that business needs art, and that together what art can do for businesses, and then the economic development and impact
we just saw from Alexis and Shoshana and their numbers, that they're not two separate entities. And I think that was a really strong message for me, and I think for other people who are not so integrated in the art community, of really how, as a community, it's a quality of life, it's economic development, it's really kind of everything coming together. So I'm excited about the Art and Culture Committee and what you plan on doing. I'm especially excited about Victorian Square being redevelopment chair, really looking at downtown and what we're going to be putting down there, from pieces of art to performing arts to visual and lighting. There's so many possibilities, and I hope those are all moving quickly. I think people will be. I think you're going to get a lot of buy-in from, hopefully, from business and the community, and I think from all of us here in the council side of it. And I support what you're doing, and thank you for the work you're doing and for what exciting things are to come. Thank you.
Clarify that this particular agenda item does not involve a fiscal component today. The city council is not committing to spending funds today. And is that budget what's in the fiscal impact? No, my problem is that the agenda item itself does not indicate or tell the citizenry that the city council is contemplating spending money. It's just a consideration, discussion, acceptance of a mission and strategic plan. There's nothing in there about committing. I see different accounts in here: tourism and marketing, parks and rec, room tax, but there's nothing in the agenda item itself saying that the city council intends to spend a finite or infinite amount of dollars in here.
What's the, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Attorney. In the city manager's budget recommendations, there were amounts allocated, $150,000 from the infrastructure or the room tax monies, and then some other monies that have been dedicated and being collected by Parks and Recreation on an ongoing basis. The council's approval of that agenda was contingent upon the Arts Commission creating a strategic plan, having a mission and vision, and then they would approach in the future spending of the money that was approved by the council. So there is nothing currently on board to be spent. The spending authorization will go through my office as appropriately and come to this council as is required by the rules for spending money. For instance, right now we have applied for a grant through the National Endowment for the Arts that would take the $150,000 that the council approved to spend of room tax money. It would double it for all intents and purposes as a match that would improve that. So we're not in the position to really spend money at this point, but the money and the spending and the process has already been approved by the council through the fiscal 18 budget.
My question is, does this agenda item commit the city council to spending money today?
It does not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Smith, wait a minute, 1 second. So, okay, go ahead.
No, I was thinking that the money would be in the plan.
There is a budget for some of the small programs.
Page 9.
That we have in our arts fund that we will be spending in the future.
Is that in the plan that we're voting on today?
Yes.
The money, okay, so there is some money attached.
Isn't just agree?
Huh?
Good.
I think that, my understanding, this is just agreement to what we've already said yes to. We already said yes to that money. So they're just showing us the budget of what we said yes to. So however you want to semantic it, all we're doing is taking, we said yes to this already. This is done. Now you're just telling us how you're going to spend the money we said yes to.
I move to accept the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee's mission and strategy plan 2017 through 2020.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Darney. Thanks, ladies. We've been looking for this for a long, long time. I know I've been
Thank you.
here since
And we're just getting started.
99. It's time to get started, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to 9.4, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a contract AC 5409 with Aspen Developers Corporation. I want to know what the reason for, I know the reason for the tie, but why the three light blue shirts? Rundle, Speed Hump, and you guys email back and forth today and figure out what you're going to work?
We've had a plan for weeks, yes. Yep.
You guys never do anything without a plan, right?
No, engineers don't.
Man, Andy.
Good afternoon, Mayor Martini, members of council. For the record, Andy Hummel, Utility Manager for the City of Sparks. And today I'm presenting the Bergen Way Storm Drain Project for your consideration. This project was included in the fiscal year 17 capital improvement plan. Basically addresses localized drainage issues that we have down in that area of the Sparks Industrial Center. It's generally located south of East Glendale Avenue and just east of McCarran Boulevard. All of our drainage in that general vicinity is all on the street. We don't have any pipes under the street in that area in there, so any small storm, it starts overrunning the curb, causing problems for all the businesses down there. So this project will install catch basin inlets, ground piping, and a stormwater interceptor vault to capture and convey stormwater flows to our infrastructure in East Glendale Avenue, as well as reduce pollutants such as oils, sediment, trash. Total of 5 bids were received. Aspen Developers was the low bidder on the project at $423,140. No discrepancies were noted during the bidding process, and we recommend approval. That concludes my presentation. Available for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been advised by council to abstain from this 9.4. I myself will not benefit in any way from this program, but my son-in-law is the general manager of that company, and I just caught that. I didn't even know he was doing this, so I will be abstaining.
Okay. Mr. Lawson.
Does this eliminate our swimming pool down there?
Yeah, we have right at that intersection of
I
Bergen.
mean, we need pools, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's not
Don't
deep
need
enough
them
to
right
enjoy,
there. Yeah.
unfortunately.
Thank you.
Andy, a question. The engineer's estimate was $384,000. Other than the price we're seeing daily of everything, construction and bidding, was that just a normal increase, or was there something that changed for it to the lowest bid to be that much difference from what your estimate was?
I think it's timing. When we opened the bids on this, it was the hurricanes that just started hitting. And a lot of the pipes, the resins that make the pipes, like PVC pipe is a common material that would have been used for this project. Those materials, a lot of them come in through Houston, so there's a lot of uncertainty. We are hearing from some of our local suppliers that if you're going to be using a plastic pipe, get it ordered, but they can't promise when it'll be here, so they're looking at other materials, things like that. So I think that's some of what we saw in these bids being slightly higher.
So were those, even though we're through the whole hurricane and supplies should be increased by now, could this number be lower perhaps? Because when they bid it, they knew that it might be higher. Now that inventory is flowing again, could it possibly be lower? This would be the most. Would we have a chance that it would decrease? Or, because I wouldn't say the prices should stay up, or do they?
From what we're hearing as recently as today from some of the local suppliers, they do not know when that will change actually. That the PVC pipe especially is going to be expensive for a while. Yep.
Anyone else? Questions? Okay, looking for motion. Mr. Dash?
Contract with Aspen Developers Corporation for the Virgin Way Storm Drain Project in the amount of $423,140.
Mr. Abbott. Moved by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 9.4 as outlined by staff. Any additional questions? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously with one abstention. Okay, let's move on to number 9.5, consideration, discussion, possible approval of amendment number 1 to the disposition and development agreement between SWD Quarry Bridges LLC, redevelopment agency of the city of Sparks, and the city of Sparks for an airspace easement across city property. Mr. Armando Ornelas.
Mayor Martini, members of the City Council, I'm Armando Ornelas, the Assistant Community Services Director. This agenda item requests City Council and later today, Redevelopment Agency consideration of and approval of an amendment to the disposition and development agreement between the Redevelopment Agency, the City of Sparks, and SWD Quarry Bridges LLC, which is an entity created by Silver Wing Development specifically for development of the Bridges project. The city and the agency originally entered into the DDA with the developer about 15 months ago in June of 2016, and it provided for the sale of redevelopment agency property for the Bridges mixed-use project in Victorian Square. This proposed amendment, number 1, to the DDA would basically do two things. First, it would grant the developer an additional airspace easement to construct at its sole expense a pedestrian bridge connecting the Bridges project to the city parking garage, which is located directly adjacent to the Victorian Square movie theater. So I'm looking for the graphic up here on the screen. Pardon me while I find it. Can you open it up, Rich, for me, please? Thank you. I'm not seeing it right off the bat. When I say additional easement, there are other airspace easements associated with this project. There is an airspace easement associated with the bridge that will connect the two parts of the project over Avenue of the Oaks. There are also airspace easements associated with balconies for the property because these are buildings that are built right to the property line. Basically, this connects the northern parcel of the Bridges project with the parking garage that the city owns next to the theater directly to the north. There's about a 10-foot space. The Bridges goes up to the property line. The city parking garage is set back about 10 feet, and this would provide that easement across the city's parcel to the second part of amendment number 1 would grant the developer the option of obtaining passes for project residents to park up to 50 passenger vehicles in the city parking garage. The city retains, per this agreement or this amendment, the right to charge Silver Wing a fee for parking in the city garage either on a permanent or an intermittent basis. When and if the city imposes a charge, the fee is spelled out. It would be essentially a pro rata share of the city's annual operation and maintenance costs for the city parking garage. So 50 spaces equates to approximately 7% of the spaces in the garage. So the fee would be equal to approximately 7% of those costs. There is an alternative method provided for in the agreement, which is the city and the developer can choose to calculate some other basis for the payment. Practically speaking, this probably only comes into play when and if the city decides that it's going to control access to the garage. Because right now it's a public parking garage. Anybody can park there. If we reach the point where, okay, we need to control access to parking, similar, for example, to the parking gallery in downtown Reno, that, for example, theater patrons use down there, then we would probably be, because we have, a lot of spaces in the garage, and we would potentially be contracting with someone to staff a kiosk and control access in and out of the garage. That, practically speaking, that's likely when this provision of amendment number 1 would kick in. So Jay Witt requested these changes to the DDA when it became apparent to him that, based on his experience with leasing and managing the Fountain House project, that residents of the 194 Bridges apartments will probably own more cars than can be parked in the garages that the Bridges is constructing. So more specifically, Mr. Witt anticipates that Bridges residents will own 1.3 vehicles per dwelling unit. So if you translate that, 1.3 vehicles per unit times 194 units equals 252 spaces that would be needed approximately for the residents. The Bridges has 202 parking stalls, so that leaves a shortfall approximately of 50 spaces. So when Mr. Witt requested this from city staff, before we agreed to bring this forward to the council and the agency and support it, frankly, we decided it was time to take a comprehensive look at parking in the Victorian Square area. And so towards that end, city engineer John Erickson commissioned 2 parking analyses. The first one was initially for that western side of Victorian Square, which is essentially from 11th Street over to 15th Street, and then a second one for the area from 11th Street all the way to Pyramid. And ultimately, they were combined into the parking analysis that is attached to your staff report. The analysis it documented the existing parking supply in downtown in terms of on-street parking, public parking lots, and in public parking structures. And then it looked at the demand for parking from all of the various uses in our Victorian Square area. And so in doing that, we looked at both properties as they're currently developed, and then because we still have a number of parcels to be developed, including the parcels right along the plaza, for example, we attributed demand to those parcels as well. So, and then the demand for each parcel was calculated using data from the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and did a peak hour analysis. So if you have questions about the parking analysis, both John Erickson is here, as well as Lauren Chilson of Traffic Works, who actually did the analysis, and they probably can give you much more depth in terms of that analysis than I can. But I'll summarize and say that the analysis concludes that there is sufficient parking within the district to accommodate both the existing and prospective land uses, including the movie theater, and to permit at least 50 Bridges resident vehicles to routinely park in the city parking garage. So in a nutshell, we felt that we could grant this in this amendment to the DDA for this project and still have sufficient parking in the long run. So with that, staff is recommending approval of amendment number 1 to the Bridges DDA, and I'll conclude my presentation.
How many parking spots are on each floor?
There are, well, I'll refer you to the top floor. Let me take a look at the analysis. Yeah, it would be connecting the two, basically the top deck to the top deck. And in that, on the 4th floor, there are approximately 146 parking spaces, or they were counted.
Parking spaces, or first come, first served? They get there, they don't have one, too bad?
First come, first serve. We are going to continue to operate this as a public parking structure. We have in the past. Public parking spaces. So that's the intention at this juncture.
So, but if we have a special event and resident comes home at 10 o'clock at night and there's no parking at the garage, they're SOL.
Yeah, I mean, I think until such time as we actually, control for parking, it's going to be first come, first serve.
Here.
We're pretty excited about what's happening down there, and so I know Jay Witt's out there, and I just want to continue to just encourage the whole thing, but I do think that it's good forward thinking to put that in, because at first you won't need to use it at all, because it won't be filled. So that's upon capacity that they'll need to use that. They're going to put a gate there so people can't come in. Is that the idea that if you're putting that bridge across,
Bridge would be restricted to residents. Use of the bridge would be restricted to residents of the bridges. They would be. I would assume that there'd be some either card key or other controlled access, so that only residents could go from our parking structure over to their building.
I've been up on that top floor during times of parking or doing whatever, and it's rarely ever, at this point, even when our movie theater was functioning and at full. I mean, the only time I think it ever filled up is those 2 event times.
Yeah, and event parking is, another matter altogether. We really can't, we would never be able to provide enough event parking. But I think to editorialize just a little bit, I mean, I think, we're not quite there yet, but we're maybe starting to anticipate that at some point we'll have a parking problem. We've always felt that that would be a good problem to have because that means we have a lot of uses and activity and demand for parking downtown. That's not quite the case even today.
So Armando, the 50 spots that are there, those cars or those residents won't have necessarily a parking sticker or hang tag for those vehicles, so that, you know, on that top level, it's not going to be designated 50 specific spots, but is there any way of identifying or need to identify the vehicles from those 50 spots? And when we have like Fountain House people, maybe they do now, parking over in the garage, do you anticipate that a problem, or are we going to be good on parking spots? Because what I understand from, I think, information you gave us before is the movie theater itself, because of the capacity, is going to be so much less in the number of seats in the movie theater that has reduced possible parking need of the theater itself. I mean, I know that I'm kind of throwing it all together, sorry.
The parking passes, we would anticipate again only being necessary when we have controlled, if and when we have controlled access into the garage. So, you know, in other words, a resident pulls in, they have a parking pass, they're allowed to go in without paying, or really to exit without paying, and that's when that would come into play. As I said, Mr. Chilson and Mr. Erickson can address the parking analysis in much greater detail, but in a nutshell, the issue really only starts to arise when there is additional development at Victorian Square. You know, when those plaza parcels develop, for example, and are generating their additional demand. As you alluded to, the demand for the theater is expected to be significantly less, you know, when it's reconfigured than it was previously. Previously, there were 3,200 seats in those 14 auditoriums. The plans that have been submitted by Sayufi and Galaxy indicate that there will be 1,050 seats, so roughly, you know, about just over 30%, a little over 30% of the original seat count in that theater. The analysis includes a peak estimate for the demand of the theater for spaces, and I think certainly between the theater and these uses, the current uses, really not an issue at all. It's looking forward to that date when hopefully all those other development occurs and we're looking at an issue.
Yeah, my question is whether or not the applicant has been informed that by constructing this bridge itself at his sole expense, and later on down the road, if they are given parking spots, those all could create taxable events under Nevada law, and making sure that the city will not be responsible for payment of any real or personal property taxes that may or may not accrue because of this venture.
City Attorney Adams, we did include a statement in the staff report that addresses that specifically. I believe Mr. Witt can verify it, but I believe that I communicated that to him. And so that's on the record, if you will.
That's all I wanted to do was get it on the record. Thank you, sir.
Is there any language just to say, for those one day Jay sells the whole thing to somebody else? Trying to figure out what to do at that point, that at that time, we all get to sit down with the owner and we all get to say, here's what we're doing, or is it just 50 spot? How does that lay out? So is there anything where we can just say, I mean, because what we're talking about now makes sense, that's easy. But if we talk about the idea when we start running into problems, we need to make sure whoever's all involved that we sit down and put the brains together and come up, and is that just a given that we get to do that, or are we writing something down legally that we can be careful?
Well, this is binding. You know, I think for this project to be able to rely on this parking, if you will, you know, it needs to run with a development agreement and essentially a right with the property that would be recorded against that. This agreement is recorded against that property. You know, as with any agreement, any real estate related agreement in particular, when and if one or both parties see a need to make a change to it, then, you know, basically binding commitment.
I only mean, let's say we have to put the kiosk down there and we have to put stickers in now or something of that fashion.
That's anticipated.
That's anticipated, but we don't have the details. And at that point, are we gonna, does that give us the ability to come back at that point and help give more detail at that time? Or is that just up to the owner to do? I mean, again, Jay's definitely obviously working with us now, but what if another owner at that time is in there and someone who doesn't want to work with us as well, and we want this, and they're saying, no, I don't want to do that.
Or garage, and again, we expressly reserve the rights.
So we get the right at that point to say this. Okay.
That's the way I understand. We're giving away 50 spots that go with that property if Jay sells it or doesn't sell it.
Yeah, that is essentially correct. I mean, obviously, we retain the right to charge for the spot.
Right.
But, yeah.
There's other things that can happen, but those 50 spots belong to that project.
Yeah, we're committing to that, yes.
Any other questions? Motion? Bybee.
I move to approve amendment number 1 to the disposition and development agreement for the Bridges project.
Second? Mr. Abbott. Motion by Ms. Bybee, second by Mr. Abbott to approve 9.5 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Armando. 9.6, consideration and possible affirmation of the City of Sparks' intent to continue to participate during fiscal years 18 through 2020 as a member of the Washoe County Home Consortium. Mr. Rundle.
Jim Rundle, Planning Manager, here to discuss an item for the City Council to consider directing the City Manager to affirm in writing to the City of Reno, which is the lead agency for the Home Consortium, City of Sparks' intent to continue to participate as a member of the Home Consortium, which is the Washoe County Home Consortium is a formalized intergovernmental agreement. This is a regional mechanism for providing state and federal funding to affordable housing projects in the City of Sparks. The intergovernmental agreement has been renewed every 3 years, and this is the 3rd year. So Reno is asking for us to consider renewing the agreement. It does include an automatic renewal provision, but the Department of Housing and Urban Development has asked that the city provide continue to renew that agreement. Through the Home Consortium, the City of Sparks has had a handful of projects under the city. The Lincoln project, just across the way, the project, the City Hall Apartments, which is directly across the street, south of City Hall. The project at the former Bank of America building on Prater and Pyramid. The project over off of Sullivan, and then another project that's being constructed on Boulevard. Project of recent memory. Recently, the Technical Review Committee, which I sit on, forwarded the recommendation approval of a project that the directors, which include the Sparks City Manager, Reno City Manager, and the County Manager, forwarded a recommendation to the Governing Board to forward money to 2 projects. Both of those are in the city. And again, the staff is recommending the City Manager to affirm that Sparks would like to continue the Home Consortium. That concludes my presentation.
Questions for Mr. Rundle? Mr. Lawson?
Ready to make a motion. We don't have any questions.
Any questions? Shoot.
Move to direct the city manager to affirm in writing the Sparks' intent to continue to participate as a member of the Washoe County Home Consortium from fiscal years 2018 through 2020.
Smith.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve the agenda item 9.6. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Joe. Okay, let's move on to public hearings. Public hearing, consideration and possible approval to submit the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report CAPER for Program Year 2, fiscal year 16-17.
Good afternoon, Mayor Martini, members of City Council. George Graham, Housing Specialist for the record. Today, I'd like to present, I'll be presenting for your consideration and approval, The staff recommends approval of the CAPER, which is the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. For submission, it would be for program year 2, fiscal year 16-17, and for submission to HUD, Housing Urban Development Department. The CAPER provides an overview of the City of Sparks, what we experienced as far as expending CDBG funds, as well as Washington County Home Consortium funds, and the contribution the expenditures had in the Sparks community over, again, fiscal year 2016-17 is what it is. The specifics we've seen, well, as far as home funds goes, we had a grand opening in September 2016 with the senior development on 4th Street and Lincoln Way, 45 units. As far as CDBG funds, we've expended funding to supplement the Community Assistance Center for homeless, also for housing, affordable housing programs. We've extended additional funding to support that and emergency repair grant programs and other operations through the city as far as fair housing and continuum of care, other activities regarding that. And so this is a summary of all what we've done, what transpired over the past year. That concludes really a summary of what I'd like to present today. And I recommend approval that we may submit the report to HUD. That concludes my presentation, and I'm open to any questions.
Open it to the public. Anyone in the public want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Questions or action? Mr. Smith?
George, you always do a good job in this stuff, so we appreciate that. I move to approve submittal of the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report for Program Year 2, FY 16-17 for the City of Sparks to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve agenda item 10.1. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, George.
Thank you all.
10.2, second reading, public hearing, discussion, possible adoption bill to require all permanent buildings of facilities constructed on or after October 1, 2017 that are used by the public and contain a public restroom to provide a baby changing table. Go ahead, Mr. Miranda. It's pretty exciting stuff here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Martini and Council. For the record, Mark Miranda, your building official for the City of Sparks. Today, I am here to discuss what was recently in the 1979 session of the Nevada State Legislature, AB Bill 241-R1, that that mandates the local governments require certain permanent buildings and facilities used by the public that are constructed on or after October 1st to be equipped with baby changing tables. The adoption of the proposed bill will amend by ordinance Title 15 of the Sparks Municipal Code to comply with the provisions of AB 241-R1. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
So since none of our current buildings we would be exempt. It's only any new buildings constructed after October 1st this would apply. Thank you.
This public hearing, I'll open anyone in the public like to speak to this particular item. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for action. Questions or a motion? Ms. Bybee.
I move to adopt Bill 2723, an ordinance amending Title 15 to add Section 15-05-104-1-4 to the Sparks Municipal Code.
You have a second? Mr. Abbott? Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 10.2 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mark.
Thank
you. 10.3, public hearing, consideration possible approval of the collective bargaining agreement AC 5412 between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Detective Association. Mr. Kreutz.
Mayor Martini, members of the council, for the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. Here today on behalf of City Manager Steve Driscoll with, and I think I'm going to be here for a few minutes because I have a total of 4 collective bargaining agreements and 4 employee resolutions for your consideration today that look at providing pay and benefits for our employees ranging from 1 to as long as 3-year period. So starting with the first item, 10.3, is with the SPPA, the non-supervisory unit, or otherwise stated our police officers. And each one of these agreements, and it's collective bargaining agreements that's in front of you today, is a result of many, many hours of good discussion between the city's management staff and various members of our employee collective bargaining units. I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to meet with our employees in this setting and talk about our common understanding and desire to serve the public. That drove all of our conversations. With that, certainly everybody, myself included, wants to be paid appropriately for the work that they're doing. So out of those discussions came the agreements that are in front of you today. So with that, I will jump into some of the particulars that relate to the SPPA non-supervisory agreement. It does have a proposed 3-year term running from July 1st of this calendar year through June 30th of 2020. So there'd be a 3 fiscal year deal. In that deal, we have negotiated, and the bargaining unit has tentatively agreed and voted to ratify in the first year a cost of living adjustment in the amount of 1.8% that would be retroactive back to July 1st of this fiscal year. In as much as it's a 3-year deal, the cost of living adjustment for years 2 and 3 would float based on what the CPI does in those particular timeframes, but guaranteed to be no lower than 1%. So the bargaining unit is always guaranteed a minimum, at the very least, a minimum raise. And at the upper end, that management and yourselves are guaranteed an increase in expenditures no greater than 3%. So boil that down, it's going to be CPI in years 2 and 3, ranging between 1 and 3%. That does lead to a range of possible fiscal impacts. We know what this year's is likely to be. But we do have ranges in years 2 and 3, and you see that in the spreadsheet that our staff in the finance department prepared for us to consider as we get into that. But more specifically, the fiscal year 18, or the year that we're in now, the financial impact is estimated at $151,000. $3,000 in additional funds, and then in years 19 and 20. Roughly $85,000 to an additional $256,000, $258,000 in each of those years, those being additive in as much as the CPI can float between 1 and 3 in each of those years. So we are talking a significant expenditure of city assets. The second group that I want to talk about is a range adjustment. Per NRS 288, when it comes to bargaining negotiations with our first responders, our public safety staff, if you will, we are required to conduct a comparable pay analysis, essentially with the other local governments that we compete with for talent. And what we found in the case of our non-supervisory folks, or our police officers, that we are a bit below the market. We found that in that comparable pay analysis, that we are about 4.6% behind. And that, so we wanted to make that kind of adjustment so that we can stay competitive as we seek talent. We do have higher hiring standards. It is tougher to get on with the Sparks Police than it is with the other agencies locally, and so we negotiated with that in mind, that we do want to be just a little bit ahead of what the average is doing. But understanding that we are in a bit of a fiscal crunch, and as you'll recall,
your finance director walked you so delicately through this morning, that we are cash flow conscious. So we worked with the unit to spread that catch-up, if you will, that range adjustment over the next 3 fiscal years. So we would essentially make the upper end of the pay range available to them as they hit their annual dates in the next 3 fiscal years. And essentially spreading that 4.6 out, 25% in the first year, 35% in the second year, and 40% in the third year. So a little bit back-loading the catch-up provision. So I greatly appreciate the willingness to acknowledge that we're in tough cash flow times. We are trying to make an effort to stay competitive in this market. Next up is special assignment pay. We did work cooperatively with Chief Allen and his command staff to process a request from the union to set up a major accident investigations team and provide special pay for that. And that would be a series of specially trained officers who would receive special assignment pay for that. There would be a total of 5 of them in this unit at $100 a pay period, so really a $13,000 financial impact in any given year. And those, in being on that special assignment team, those officers would be required to respond anytime we have a major accident in Sparks, so that we can get it thoroughly and adequately investigated. So we thought from a management perspective that that made good sense. Next up is night differential pay. Your police operations are done on a 24/7, 365 basis, and previous language in the collective bargaining agreement had night differential pay for those employees who worked on swing and on grave. And as shifts do tend to change a bit here and there, and sometimes people are held over, that it led to a fair amount of confusion, and quite a bit of administrative time went in to tracking and making sure that we were appropriately paying that night differential pay. Because we certainly want to keep our employees whole, but we only want to pay for what we're contractually obligated to. So we worked with the union this time around to simplify that. And come up with set hours that we would pay night differential pay on. And so anything between 5 p.m. and 6 a.m. Will be paid as additional night differential pay. We negotiated a rate that was aimed at being as cost neutral as possible, but not really wanting to hit anybody that was receiving that pay today, and acknowledging that we're going to receive a significant administrative benefit by not having to spend all that time tracking, that we will be able to use very effectively the NovaTime type-keeping software system to keep track of that night differential pay. We did negotiate a rate that's going to increase it from $2.25 an hour for night differential pay to $3.10. The gross fiscal impact there for lumping all of the officers together is estimated to be about $22,000 a year. And we got after that by kind of taking a look at highs and lows in the middle. In a quiet week in the middle of the year, say in the middle of winter, you might not have that much, but you certainly have the opportunity for more during special event season when we've got lots of people that are working in those evenings. So then we picked one that was in the middle, and we used that to provide the financial estimate there. The next one is health care upon retirement, and this is probably the most significant conceptual change that we arrived at through our discussions. As you know, the members of this unit are eligible for sick leave conversion and sick leave cash out at the time of retirement. We were actually, your negotiating team was approached by the command staff from the police department with an idea that, was there a way that we could contemplate allowing employees who had been with us for a long period of time, as they got close to the end of their career, to start transferring that cash pre-retirement into their deferred compensation or their 457B plan, to give them additional opportunities to grow that money beyond any cost of living or range adjustments that might come. And we as the staff spent quite a bit of time noodling on that idea, certainly seeing the benefit certainly to the employee, but also seeing the potential benefits to the city, in as much as one of the requirements in cashing out your sick leave is that you agree at retirement to leave the city's health plan and find insurance on your own, or if you want to come back to the city's health plan, which you're able to do in even number of years, you're doing it at your own cost.
And as one of the things we're very cognizant of is trying to control our long-term healthcare costs. We saw an opportunity here that was a win for the employees and a win for the city. But again, trying to do it in a way that's conscious of our limited cash flows, we came up with the following proposal that the unit did agree on, and that is that once an employee has a minimum of 20 years per service credit, and that doesn't all need to be with the city of Sparks. Certainly for a lot of them it is, that they hire in young and they stay here their whole career. But we do end up with a number of officers who come to us with a number of years of experience under their belt. You heard from one of them this morning, Officer Gallup. We wanted to set it up with the understanding that up until recently the basic career duration for a sworn officer was 25 years or greater, but a lot of them do retire in that 25-year window. That once they'd reached 20 years credit, we would allow them in what is essentially the last 5 years of their career to start transferring a moderate amount of cash out of the sick leave bank, if you will, and into their 457 plan. So we came up with a cap of $10,000 a year. They would elect to do that on an annual basis with the understanding that once they had done it once they had elected to do that, that they were committing that they were not going to stay on the city's plan at the city's cost post-retirement, and then put a limit that they could do no more than 5 years. So that in the situation where somebody elected at year 20 to start the program, got to year 24 and a half and decided they weren't quite ready to retire yet, great, stay working, stay on the payroll, but we're not going to continue allowing you to put that that additional 10 grand a year in. So that that kind of limits the city exposure there. And I am pleased to report that we were able to negotiate those terms collectively, and that's part of the proposal that's in front of you today for consideration. It does come certainly at a cost. Our finance department estimates that the fiscal impact of this will be up to $30,000 a year in general fund. So essentially, they're looking at up to 3 employees a year using this new benefit. And then two relatively minor items that I want to spend just a little bit of time on are related to non-service related death of an employee. We did add a section that would allow the employee's estate to receive a one-time payment from the employee's sick leave balance, certainly subject to the cash out schedule that's already in the agreement, of a maximum of $25,000. So that was something that we negotiated. And we wanted to, in the name of administrative efficiency, we have that $25,000 cash out limit. It's something we've had for a few years now. And every now and again, we run into a situation where we have an employee who has just over that limit. Let's say they have $25,200, $25,800. Administratively, it'd be much easier, make much more sense for the city to write one check and close the account than it would to keep track of that amount for a whole year and then have to send out another check. So what we've put in the collective bargaining agreement, and we're asking you to approve, is providing the financial services director at his discretion to pay out any remaining balances that are nominally over the amounts that are in the collective bargaining agreement. So again, just trying to be a little bit more efficient in the way that we conduct our business. So that's really the highlights of the financial impact items there. Again, I'd like to thank the staff from the SPPA, all of their units. This is just the first of 3. We enjoyed, I thought, a good, heartfelt, and at times lively conversation that brought us to this point today. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Those things you went over,
there's a lot of similarity. Most of the items that I went through here today affect all of the SPPA, all 3 SPPA, but they do not go through all of the units. And from
the ones that you're not bringing to us may have something different.
Yes, sir. And there are 3 of the items, the 3 SPPA items on your agenda today are substantially the differences there. The pay range adjustments vary by whether it's non-supervisor to sergeant to lieutenant. Then when we do get to the 4th collective bargaining agreement, that is with your fire chiefs, your association of fire chiefs, and that has a little bit different form to it. It's not drastically different, but it's not the same agreement that we hammered out with SPPA. They're different groups.
Okay, all I'm trying to do is get by all the minutia that's going to be on all the contracts and get it into one thing, so I understand what you're.
I will, I promise to not belabor the point as I get into the various agreements. Okay.
Questions, Mr. Lawson?
Neil, the CPI increase, do we have a CPI index source that we've agreed to in the contract?
Yes, we do, and
No matter who it is, as long as
Okay.
that argument is
Yes,
settled
yeah,
today and not a year from now, that's.
Saw that coming. We actually, that's a lesson we learned from other agencies in the valley. You can Google CPI and get 50 of them. And so we nailed down with great specificity and with Jeff Cronk's help, exactly which CPI that we are referencing, the point in the year that we are going to make the comparison. We set it up so that we can appropriately budget for the year coming up. So we're going to take the look based on the December numbers, so that in January we'll know where we stand. And we provided that to everybody up front and said, let's go make sure we can find this, and that nobody got tripped up, and we all landed in the same place.
Well, I mean, it's funny you bring up Mr. Trump. That's my second question. What's a nominal overage amount? I mean, we've given you guys some latitude on interpretation of the ordinances of 10%. I mean, that's something that we should have in there as a number, that nominal meaning up to X dollars, that he could just make it happen.
We kicked around actually putting a percentage or a fixed number in there. And what we kept circling back to was that then there's always going to be the number that's that plus 38 cents. So why don't we just leave it, why don't we leave it to his discretion as to what's nominal and as to what he says, hey, this is a little bit big here, I'm not quite comfortable. And we have a great deal of faith in our financial services director. And so we, essentially we're asking you to give him the leeway to set his comfort level. I can appreciate that you're a little hesitant.
Manny or over there. I know he'll always err on the side of conservatives. So, okay, I can live with that.
Mr. Dare.
Been good watching this. This is my first year getting to watch all this unfold, and then I'm a part of some other groups that are not unfolding as well. So I would say to our city workers who are watching this, and to you and your team, good job. And it seems that it's nice to have that relationship where it seems that people are pointing what's best for Sparks and looking at that on a regular basis. And I hope that just stays a continuation of what we do. So it's good.
Okay, anyone else, questions? So these are all public hearing items, I'm presuming. So we're going to start with 10.3 and then go from there. Okay. This is a public hearing, 10.3. Anybody in the audience want to talk to us about 10.3? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council for action. Any questions or action? Mr. Abbott?
I just think make a motion.
Please, never hesitate.
I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Protective Association non-supervisory unit for the period of July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Abbott, second by Mr. Smith to approve 10.3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.4, any questions for Mr. Kreutz or any items that you want to discuss, Mr. Kreutz?
Yes, sir. If that's okay with you, the key difference between the non-sworn or the police officers and the sergeants is the pay range adjustment. Otherwise, it's a 3-year deal, 1.8 in the first year, retroactive to July 1st, the CPI range in years 2 and 3. We did find through our comparable analysis that we are a little bit further behind with our sergeants. So the total range adjustment there is proposed at 8.7%. And again, it's spread out over the same 3-year period, backloaded just like the other one. But in as much as we are further behind, it's a bigger number. Same major accident investigation team. There will be a sergeant in charge of that team. That's a single body. Fiscal impact $2,600. It's $100 a pay period. Night differential pay. While the figures are the same, the general idea is, while the figures are a little bit different, I'm sorry, the general idea is the same, and the fiscal impact there is relatively small. In as much as you might expect, our sergeants group is a relatively small one as well. And then the same, health care upon retirement, the sick leave cash out into deferred comp with 20 years of service. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for you? See no questions. This is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Questions? Motion, Mr. Lawson.
Move to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Protective Association Sergeants Unit for July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2020.
I'll second that.
Moved by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve 10.4 for discussion. Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Moving on, 10.5, anything special here, Neil? Or
Just the same kind of difference in as much as now we're talking about lieutenants. The pay range adjustment is down from the 8.7 in the sergeants to 7.1 in the lieutenants, again, spread over 3 years. It's a 3-year deal, 1.8 CPI and CPI. The night differential savings is actually a little net small savings for the city going to the strict hours. But again, it was intended to be largely cost neutral. The same sick leave cash out into deferred comp.
Okay. Questions for Neil? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing, so I'll bring it to the public for action. Any questions from the public about this particular contract? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Questions or motion? Mr. Smith?
Motion, I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Protective Association Lieutenants Unit for July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020.
Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 10.5 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 10.6, public hearing, consideration possible approval of the deputy chiefs. Anything different here, or?
One key difference is this is an employee resolution and not a collective bargaining agreement.
Okay.
Two deputy police chiefs are not in a union. They are salaried employees with the city. Otherwise, it's a three-year term, just like the three you've already approved. 1.8% cost of living in year one, based on the COLA ranging between 1 and 3 in years 2 and 3. Some language cleanup that defines proration of longevity pay at termination, and then one additional cleanup, and it's something that we're doing in all of the management-related employee resolutions, and that is in dealing with the amount employees who were hired after July 1st of 2010 pay for their dependent health care coverage. In each of those resolution groups, and it's deputy chiefs, it's mid-management, it's city attorneys, and it's even in the executive's resolution, anybody hired after that point in time had to pay 50% of their dependent health care coverage. That was a goal that the city's negotiating team had going back a decade or so ago, to go there citywide. We did not get there with our other bargaining units. We got to 25%. So in the name of equity, in treating employees who are similarly situated in the same equitable manner, we are proposing to roll back the dependent care monthly payment from 50% to 25%. Other than that, it's very similar to the three you've just approved.
Questions for Neil? Okay, this too is a public hearing, so I'll bring it to the public. Anyone want to speak to this particular item? Yes, sir, come on up. If you want to make a comment on this, we need to have you at the, up here at the podium, and we need you to give us your name, please.
Question I have is the money here in the Sparks budget to pay for all of this? It is there. Okay, great. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Anyone else on 10.6? Was my mouth full?
Didn't notice.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Any questions? Mr. Dare.
I move to adopt the Deputy Chief Employee Resolution number 3320 for the period of July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020.
Ms. Bybee,
Second.
moved by Mr. Dare, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 10.6 is outlined by staff. Any further questions? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, Neil, 10.7.
7 is back to the world of collective bargaining, and this is with the fire department classified chief officers unit. So this is your battalion chiefs, your fire marshal, and your division chiefs. It is the proposed deal has a 3-year term, has been tentatively agreed and ratified upon vote of the union. So it would run retroactively to July 1st of 2017 through June 30th of 2020. The cost of living arrangement here is a little bit different in that it's fixed in each of the 3 years, where our discussions with the chiefs led us to 1.8% in this fiscal year, and then set both the following 2 fiscal years at 2% in each of those years. So rather than a range, you've got a fixed number to work with. In terms of pay range adjustment, as I referenced earlier with our public safety professionals per NRS 288, we're required to take a look at pay comparables. We found that our battalion chiefs are 4.9% underpaid compared to the group of local governments that we compete for talent with. So we struck the same deal to spread it out over the 3-year period, backloaded a little bit. The one difference is that the way our fire department is administered, rather than having specific anniversary dates that the operation is tied to, we tied this to essentially the first pay period in January of each year. So they'll get that portion of the pay range adjustment in mid-year, and they'll get the cost of living adjustment at the beginning of the fiscal year. Moving on from there, we did clarify the language on acting temporary pay so that it is easier to read, understand, and administer. And we also agreed that whenever we have a battalion chief or division chief who is acting as the fire chief while the fire chief is out of town, that in as much as they're hourly employees, and at that point in time, they're strictly speaking, the phone can ring for them at any point in time as the chief, that we're going to continue to pay just that 5% that we would normally pay during their working hours. We'll continue to pay that 5% during the non-working hours, that they've got to be that accessible to us as we deal with any issues that come up with the city. After that, the changes are relatively minor. We did agree to increase the amount of annual leave accrual, the maximum annual leave accrual amount from 380 to 400 hours, so an additional 20 hours that they can have on the books, a relatively small item there. We did change the payout of compensatory time from automatic to not an automatic, that so that they can build up a little bit larger balance rather than have it cashed out and just fill it back up every year. That was something that they requested, and had a nominal financial impact, $18,000 in the year that we're in, and up to $20,000 out in the 3rd year. So not a big dollar amount, if you will. And then lastly, we did agree to provide them a couple of additional personal days to account for the work that they do. The financial impact is shown in the same format we're required to provide by law, and if there are any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Neil? 10-7? Seeing no questions, we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone in the public want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Questions for Neil or anyone else, staff? Looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the bargaining agreement between the City of Sparks and the Association of Sparks Fire Department Classified Chief Officers Unit, July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020.
Second. Moved by Mr. Abbott, second by Mr. Smith to approve 10.7. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.8, public hearing, consideration and possible approval of the Assistant Senior and Chief Assistant City Attorneys. Go ahead, Neil.
The last three are employee resolutions. This one, as Mayor Martini mentioned, is for our city attorneys. It is a 3-year term proposed in it, retroactive to July 1st of this year and out through June 30th of 2020, with a 1.8% cost of living adjustment in this fiscal year, and the range is based on CPI between 1 and 3 years to 3, just like the slide on the police department. Similar to what we did with the deputy chiefs, where we rolled back the dependent health care payments from 50 to 25% for anybody who came on the books after July of 2010, where we've got that language included in here, again in the name of equity. The one key difference that we've got here is that we did agree to, we did increase the sick leave conversion and cash out rates that are in each of those tables so that they are a little bit more favorable to the employee with fewer years in. The idea there being that when we get into, essentially our management and our management professional technical ranks, that we do tend to bring a number of employees in mid-career. And so maybe they're not going to have a 30-year career with the city. Maybe they're only going to have a 15 or a 20-year career with the city. And the thought was that we still wanted to be able to reward them, at the end of their career. Again, what's in it for the city is, we're offering to give them some cash, the idea that then they leave the plan and it saves us some money in the long run. So as management, we viewed that as a win-win. But other than that, it's essentially the same deal, if you will, that the other groups have seen. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Questions for Neil? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone in the public like to speak to this particular item? I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Questions or motion? Mr. Smith.
I move to adopt the Assistant Senior and Chief Assistant City Attorneys Resolution Number 3321 for the period of July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2020.
Dare. Second. Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve 10.8 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 10.9.
10.9 is an employee resolution for our mid-management professional and technical employees. Again, it is a 3-year proposal, just like what you've seen earlier today, with a term that would be retroactive to July 1st of this year and run out through June 30th of 2020. Cost of living, just like the others, set at 1.8 in this year that we're in now, and then the CPI ranging between 1 and 3 for years 2 and 3 in the agreement. The financial impacts here do track a little bit differently than they do in the others, where our public safety folks are paid almost entirely out of the general fund. Our mid-managers are roughly 50-50 on general fund versus other funds, most of those being the various enterprise funds that we operate for sewer or storm drain or development services. So this one does not hit the general fund as hard in total as the others. Nevertheless, the financial impacts are there. The group health, in terms of dependent care monthly premium payments, is here, just like we've done with the other two I've already mentioned, is rolling the 50% level back for employees hired after July of 2010 back to the 25% level, so that again we have equity across there. And like we did for the attorneys, we are proposing that the sick leave conversion and cash out rates with fewer years of experience are a little bit richer, if you will, for those employees. Same reason, we tend to hire folks mid-career into this group, and so we don't have them necessarily for a full 30 years. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll open it to the public. Anyone want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Questions or motions? Mr.
Bybee.
I move to adopt the mid-management professional and technical resolution number 3322 for the period of July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020.
Mr. Smith. Second. Motion by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 10.9. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.10, approval of the confidential employee resolution number 3323. Go ahead, Neil.
This one, Mayor Martini, members of the council, is for you, in front of you for corrective action. You actually heard this at your last meeting. It was a one-year resolution. We'll call that our confidential employees are those who otherwise their inclusion in seeing confidential information as it relates to personnel issues, collective bargaining, would be members of the operating engineers. So state law requires us to separate them from that because they see that information, and then we have to at least mirror what we've done with the operating engineers. You'll recall there we did a one-year deal with a 2% cost of living. The other item that pertains to these folks is the education pay, where we had agreed to increase it from $1,500 a fiscal year to $1,800. You did approve this, as I mentioned, at your last meeting. The corrective action is to get the proper resolution number on the document. We had an incorrect number before. So we would ask you to hold the public hearing again in the name of consistency and erring on the side of caution. But after that, our recommendation is still to approve.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone in the public want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action or questions. Mr. Dare.
I move to approve the corrected resolution number 3323 between the City of Sparks and the confidential employees for the period of July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
Smith. Second. Moved by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 10.10. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. That's it?
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
If I might, if you'll indulge me for about 10 more seconds, just a status report very quickly. There's one more collective bargaining agreement to bring in front of you, one more employee resolution. The collective bargaining agreement will be with IFF 465, the firefighters, FAOs, and captains. And then the executive resolution after that. And that will be the employee resolutions and the collective bargaining. I anticipate, gone over 10 now, I anticipate we'll be in front of you with both of those on October 23rd. So thank you very much for your indulgence. I know we've all been here for a long time, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. Very well done. Comments from the public? Anyone in the public want to speak to this body? Comments from the city council or city manager? Mr. Smith.
You know, I just want to remind everybody that November 2nd, the Nevada Veterans Memorial is having a fundraising dinner at the Peppermill. And the reason why I bring that up is because we have a national hero, a Medal of Honor recipient. Ty Carter is going to be our keynote speaker. So I'd ask that everybody that can come out and support not only the memorial, but honor the one of the gentlemen that received a Medal of Honor. There's only 77 living Medal of Honor recipients. So just to give you a heads up.
Barbecue Saturday.
Oh, go ahead.
Saturday from noon to 2 in the marina, we're going to be unveiling the sign and the location of the new Veterans Memorial Plaza. So everybody is invited, and I think they said the first 200 people get free hot dogs. So spread the word and come on out and help us celebrate our new location.
Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I have two announcements. Number one, due to resignation, the City of Sparks is looking for someone to serve the remainder of a term on the Sparks Planning Commission. The term runs through December 31st of 2020. This appointee would be eligible for reappointment for additional terms. Persons interested in serving on this committee should complete a community service application from the city clerk's office. They can apply at www.cityofsparks.us, where you would click on government on the web page and then click on volunteering for a Sparks Board of Commission, and you would complete the volunteer application. Applications for this position will close will be accepted until the close of business on October 13th of 2017. Additionally, the following committee appointment is also available for the Civil Service Commission, one member for a partial term that would end on June 30th of 2019. And again, persons interested in serving on this committee should complete the community service application available from City Clerk's office. You can apply online, www.cityofsparks.us. Clicking on Government on the webpage, under Boards and Commissions, you would click on Volunteering for a Sparks Board and Commission, and you would fill out the online application and submit. Applications for this position will be accepted until the close of business on Friday, October 13th at 4 p.m. That's all I have, sir.
Seeing no further business, we're adjourned.
I'd like to call the Parks Development Agency meeting for Monday. What are we, September 25th? It's a long day. I don't know what date. Is it still the 25th? I'd like to look for a roll call, please.
Chairperson Bybee?
Here.
Agency members Abbott?
Here.
Lawson? Smith?
Here.
Martini?
Here.
Deere?
Here.
Agency Attorney Adams? Chief Administrative Officer Driscoll?
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, agenda. Looking for approval of our agenda. Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Member Martini, second by Member Smith. Member Abbott, please vote. Okay. Okay, motion passes. Item number 5 minutes, 5.1. Looking for a motion to accept the minutes or looking for corrections if there are any. Motion by Member Smith, second by Member Dare. Please vote. Motion passes. Item number 6, business item 6.1, report of claims and bills approved for payment and appropriation transfers for the period of August 10th, 2017 through September 6th, 2017. Look, I have a motion by Member Lawson.
Second.
To approve, second by Member Smith. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item number 6.2. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of amendment number 1 to the disposition and development agreement, AR SRA 311, between SWD Quarry Bridges LLC, the redevelopment agency of the City of Sparks, and the City of Sparks for airspace easement across the city property and permission for the Bridges residents to park up to 50 passenger vehicles in the city parking garage for possible action. And I have a presentation by Mr. Ornelas.
Chairwoman Bybee, members of the agency board, I'm Armando Ornelas, the Assistant Community Services Director. This is the same agreement as you heard on the City Council agenda. So both the city and the regional agency parties to it both have to approve it. So if you have any questions.
Second.
Okay. No questions on the motion by Member Smith, second by, who seconded?
Lawson.
Member Lawson. Do we have any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 7, comments from the public. Do we have any comments from the public? Seeing none, moving on to item number 7.2, comments from the agency and Chief Administrative Officer. Mr. Driscoll, do you have anything? Any of the members have anything? I move motion to adjourn.